motion where we come out of an executive session where no action was taken.
So moved.
Wherever you want over there.
I'll second it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Gross.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
And Overbaugh.
Yes. And at this time, I entertain a motion on case 23-1, $2,000 for cremation.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
You guys go faster than I write.
Sorry.
Sykes.
Yes.
Gross.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Overbaugh.
Yes. Okay, there was no funding transfers that I'm aware of. We have the next public hearing at 9 o'clock, so we got a couple minutes. Discuss and act on interlocal subword with aging services. Did we lose? Nope, there's Lori down packed. All right.
Okay, Lori Byers, York County Aging Services now. Couple of meetings ago, I came with half the contract, the interlocal agreement between York and County and the City of Lincoln, and today I come with the other half, which has gone to the attorney's office. It's just when I got it, he had only made changes to the first one, no changes to the second one, so I forgot all about the second part of it and didn't get it attached for you guys, so I brought it here today for signature. This is basically the sub-award. So the interlocal lasts for a number of years, and then there is a sub-award for each individual year. And so that is what I am bringing to have signed. And this is the award for York County Aging Services to provide general aging-related services, which is separate from the care management contract, which was also signed a couple of board meetings ago. So that is what I'm bringing today.
And
any questions?
No, the attorney did have an
Yes,
opportunity to look at it.
It was sent to the attorney when I sent the first one. Yeah.
And we were good there because I did talk to the attorneys yesterday and everything is good, so we can sign this one.
Very good.
Any questions of Lori, I should ask? If there is no questions, I'd entertain a motion. You got the stack to sign up here.
So moved.
Thank you, Daniel.
Second.
Thank you, Jack. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Gross.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Overbaugh.
Yes, and the next one up is discuss and act on aging committee board reappointing, and this we want to postpone.
Yes.
And when does your board meet again?
The third Wednesday in September.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we
So I will
shoot for
let
the first
Kelly-
one in
I'll
October,
let
probably.
Kelly know when it's been approved by the
Okay.
board. Yeah, I had it on my tickler system on my calendar to bring forth so I wouldn't forget it. Our last aging board meeting got canceled, so it never got discussed, so it wasn't ready to bring forward today.
So need a motion to postpone until, I would assume, first meeting in October, but you'll let us know.
Yes.
Okay,
So moved.
thank you, Jack.
Second.
Thank you, Daniel. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Sykes.
Yes.
Gross.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
And Overbaugh.
Yes, thank you. Okay, and at this time, it is 9 o'clock, so we will have our second public hearing. This is to hold a public hearing on a zoning permit application filed by Eric Montgomery to exempt the one house per quarter again. Nathan, did Mr. Montgomery, I don't see him here. Did he?
Yeah, I don't see him either. I know he was aware of it. I talked to him the night we had the prior zoning meeting and we sent him notices. I'm not sure
Okay.
why he's not here.
Okay,
And I should have mentioned this on Mr. Wright's, but public notice was also posted in the courthouse, post office, and Redbeards. So we posted it around
Okay,
to satisfy
thank you.
the regulations. And that's for this one as well. So Mr. Montgomery is a little more tricky than Mr. Wright's. He's wanting to build a guest house on his property. I believe you guys have kind of the outline of generally where it will sit on his property. It's about 1,200 square feet. He basically plans to use it for some family who need it. I believe he has an elderly mother-in-law that might need it. He also mentioned wanting to use it for missionary purposes if somebody, like a pastor, is coming through and needs some help. He did say it would be unoccupied probably 70 to 80% of the time, but he'd anticipate somebody being there every month, hopefully every other month. The zoning board did send a recommendation 5-0 vote with no conditions, but I know there was some discussion and concern of, is this essentially just a second house disguised as a guest house? He doesn't have full plans set up, he just knows where he wants to set it, generally the size of it. There's no set schematics. I know he has some prepared depending on what happens today. But it sounds like it'll essentially just be a slab with a small guest house sitting on top of it. And it'd have kind of its own driveway connecting up to it on his property. But as I said, the zoning board did recommend approval 5-0, no conditions, but that's generally the gist of Mr. Montgomery's. But again, it would be two residential dwellings in quarter, so it does need approval.
Thank you. Okay, once again, this is a public hearing, and anybody that would like to speak to this, comment on this application, they may do so at this time.
Willard Peterson, 514 Road 13, York. Pretty much the same speech as I gave you on the other one. Now, it's not my place, but I do know why he's not here. And if you were in the circumstance he is, you wouldn't be here either. So that's why he's not here. But anyway, again, this does seem like a little bit different thing, but I still think, you know, I think his is a fairly large acreage, and I don't think it'll be infringing on anybody else. And anyway, I would encourage you to to a certain extent, let people do what they want to do on their own property. I know we're supposed to have rules, but sometimes rules get in the road.
Thank you, Willard. Anybody else from the public that would like to comment at this time? This public hearing was noticed in the paper and also on the website, and that date was August 15th also. Seeing nobody get up, come forward. At this time, I will close the public hearing, and I will throw it to the board. I guess at this point in time, guys, we got a couple ways we can go. We did hold a public hearing. We could wait and see if there was a time when Mr. Montgomery would be able to be here and be present for discussion, or we can go ahead and act on it if you feel so that you want to act on it without him being present. I know that at the zoning meeting that I attended, there was talk about guest home. They asked him if he was ever going to VRBO it, but I think the only way we can look at this is it's a second house. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. It's a second house on a piece of property that's platted as 20 acres, but it's just that. So that's the way I think we have to look at it from our perspective. So like I say, we can postpone this until he can be in attendance and ask him some questions, or we can move forward.
Well, the expectation's per 40 acres, is that correct? One house per 40?
Yes.
And he, according to G-Works here, it looks like he's got 25.73 acres, so it's close. It's not exactly your 40, but it's close.
Yeah, at the very least, I think that it would be a lot cleaner if we decided to go this way, that piece of, that house had its own piece of property. You know, I mean, he's got plenty of property there. It doesn't mean he has to sell it, doesn't mean he has to do anything with it, but in my mind, if it was platted out at 4 or 5 acres and it sat there, that would be wise, because nothing lasts forever. You know, I mean, we won't be here forever. He won't own it forever. And someday in the future, who knows, 50, 60, 70 years, it would be up for sale. And to me, we've made it cleaner for us by saying there isn't two houses on one property, there are two separate properties out there. And knowing the lay of this land, it seems to fit with that, you know, I mean, it's not agricultural production land, it's out off of, Road 12, I believe it is, right up on the corner. It actually used to set, just a few years ago, it sat a different direction. That house used to sit, the property was a north-south piece. And then they switched with the adjoining neighbor to the south, and it turned out being an east-west piece. That was back when Mr. Frisbee owned it. And then there's a sand pit that sits in behind it, an old sand pit that sits in behind back there, so. But, like I say, I personally, I'd like to see Eric here. Not knowing why he's here, I do know Eric, Eric's a good guy. I would like to see him here in front of us to do this personally.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Can we take, if we postpone it, we don't have to have a second hearing,
I
correct?
wouldn't think so.
We
already
had the
public
hearing.
All the
Everybody's been
notifications have been went out, you know, that all the adjoining property owners have to be notified of this meeting, and they have their opportunity here to come.
Yep.
So now it's just that's closed and done.
Right.
Now we just have the application to deal with.
Correct, yep. Yeah, I would be more comfortable with that as well, I think.
Everybody okay with that if we postpone any action on this? Jack, sound okay to you?
Make a motion.
You'll make a
I'll make a
motion?
motion
Postpone?
to postpone till
Mr. Monk?
be here.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Sykes?
Yes.
Brooks?
Yes.
Bear?
Yes.
Ziegler?
Yes.
And Overmeyer.
Yes. Nate, can you be in contact with him at some time and just let him know what happened and see what we can do?
Yeah, I have his phone number, I'll call him after the meeting.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, next up is discuss and act on interlocal agreement with Fillmore County on the Veteran Service Officer. For those of you that are new to us, we share the Veteran Service Officer with Fillmore County. He goes down there and takes care of their services. Through the upcoming audit that's starting, kicking off today, we've been looking at all of our interlocal agreements, and as some of them seem to do, they get signed and then they get kind of put on the shelf and they get forgot about. And this one was signed in 2016, and it had, as you've seen in it, it had some set the wages for 2016-17, 2017-18, and then after that it was supposed to be discussed again. And we haven't discussed anything. So I thought it'd be a good time to bring that up, seeing it was budget time. It is, I did talk with their chairman of supervisors down there last week to let him know that, to not ambush him, let him know it was on the agenda. At that time, when we signed it, we were paying our veteran service officer right at $47,000 a year. And currently he's up to $56,000 a year. They have been paying $20,000 a year annually over the last 7 years, you could say.
In addition to what we're paying them, is that correct?
No, they
Or
reimburse
total
York
salary.
County.
They're contributing to that total salary.
Right, their money just goes into the general fund, and we pay out, obviously, of his function under the general fund. So the question would be, we would obviously have to, if we wanted to change that figure, we would have to come up with figures, send it down to them, ask for their approval, and move from there. I would think that it would make sense for us to raise it a little bit, seeing as how we are paying him more than we did at that time, and everything else has went up, and he understood when Wade was his name, he understood when I visited with him last week. So any ideas or thoughts?
So just doing some calculations, the number that, so if the salary was around 47,000, and they were paying 20, that was about 43%. And so, if we take 43% of where, of the current wage, it's about 24,000. If there's any increase, discussed when we discuss wages, that might go up a little bit. So I would say that a little bit of an increase is not gonna be wrong. So, I mean, and I think Fillmore County will be on board with some sort of increase. I don't know if we'd wanna lay it out the same way. You know, the way that it was originally was a first year and a second year and then an adjustment after that.
I would think that we could change this a little bit and, you know, revisit this in 3 to 5 years. You know, I don't think it needs to be revisited every year, but, you know, leave the components in there of getting out of the agreement if we
Sure,
want to.
right,
But, looking at the wage setting, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 to 5 years, I would think would be okay.
Was that amount based on the population that's down in Fillmore County versus York County, so proportional?
Right, yeah, I
No.
don't
Payment, or how
know.
does that
No.
negotiate?
So that, the wage we came up with at the time was just a set salary that we had agreed on, and we've never changed it. So,
Nick, if you want to come forward, please.
I have had conversations with Fillmore County numerous times in the past and at NACO and done this. Our kind of thoughts with Fillmore County supervisors, talking with them, is we thought about going to 25,000 year one, and then like a 2,000, almost like a revolving yearly thing, if that makes sense for, and then revisit every 3 to 5 years is exactly what we talked about. And I think Wade and I had the same conversation I think you guys had, so, but that's what we thought about instantly going to 25, which would put your 24 there, right in the same ballpark, and it was easier round numbers.
Sure.
Is
Yep.
what we were kind of going for.
Yep.
Or that 6th grade math, you know, from Fillmore Central catches up to us. So,
Yeah, Wade and myself never talked any money last week.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want him to, I wanted him to know that we was gonna discuss it at this meeting and go.
I called him 2 weeks ago, and him and I have had plenty of conversations, so.
So,
And he was 100% on board.
Yeah.
I mean, he understood, a couple of years ago, we had talked about it, and nothing ever came about, and so they understand.
okay.
So, I agree.
Any questions of Nick while he's here of this agreement? Services rendered, I mean, you go down weekly.
Yep.
Obviously to Fillmore County.
One day a week, so, yep, and then I get plenty of phone calls. I got one already this morning from veterans down there, so, which, we have a full-time gal that works for us down there that's in the office 5 days a week. She has all the access. She is new. They had we share her, she does our office and planning and zoning down there as well. And then kind of manages, it's the old hospital, if you kind of know how Geneva's set up. So she kind of manages that building there, so she's got there, but, yeah, she does that and sets up and takes care of a lot of stuff, runs around for us down there, so. It works. It's been a great partnership. I don't think I've made them mad. I don't think I've made them too mad. So, I have to buy their love at NACO, I guess. So, by mistake.
So basically, we'd just come up with, like, say, whatever, we would agree to it, send it down to them, and they would have to write off and agree to it before it became into it.
Yep, and then what we would do is we would restructure this, bring it back before, we have till October 1st is what in here legally for both parties to agree on it. And which you want me to take that and run with it, that's easy. That's more just getting on their agenda, or telling what it is, doing it, they'll sign it, bring it back to present it in front of you guys with the set agreed terms for, well, I think just
Both chairs
yeah,
signed.
both chairs, and then, I thought the attorneys, both attorneys, the two.
And I believe they meet the 2nd and 4th
Correct.
They're not every other, so
Correct.
there would be an opportunity if.
It'd be two.
If we
it'd be-
chose, we could
yeah.
go down and go in front of them too, at that
It'd be-
point in time too.
Yeah, it'd be 3 weeks from today is when their next meeting is.
You looking for a motion?
I'm looking for anything, comments or anything.
I'd make a motion that we raise the salary for Fillmore County to 25,000. I don't think we can put in there to revisit automatic raises at this time, but I think we can move up that, standard fee to 25. It's been several years since it was changed.
Okay? Do you want to put anything in the agreement we have at re-looking at it after a period of time?
I think you could relook at it, every third year.
Be fine. Okay, we got a motion to raise the Fillmore County's payment to York County for the services of the Veteran Service Office for $25,000 annually. In the agreement, I believe it's split into 12 equal payments.
That's gonna change. We haven't done that, I'll be honest. So if that's the case, it was way easier just to bill them twice. And they agreed 100%. So they actually pay us, we do a $10,000 check and a $10,000 check. So 2 checks, so we'll change that. We're gonna change that language in here as well.
Okay, so,
They've agreed, it works, we haven't missed the payment or done that, so.
so that it will go to a semi-annual payment?
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about budget years, not calendar years here too.
Yep.
So
So
this
it's October.
will be for the 23-24 budget year.
Correct. Yeah, so they pay us first part of October every year and April of every year is what they've been giving us, so.
Okay. Does that sound good for your
That sounds
motion?
great.
All right,
I'll second that.
thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Sykes. Sykes.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Rhodes.
Yes.
And Overmeyer.
Yes, and I did tell Wade that I would visit with him again after the meeting today, so I'll call him sometime this week.
Yeah, I don't know what they're meeting, how long they're gonna go today, but they're in the meeting today, so.
Yeah, I told him I'd get a hold of him this week and just visit with him again, and then we will get with the attorneys to make the
Yeah, I
changes
will.
to the contract.
Yeah, I'll revisit this and then I'll send it to Chris, and have him look over it, so then we have a blessing from Chris, so, on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Candace.
Okay, discuss an act on professional service agreement, Four Corners Health Department, Project 20 EMCB-014.
This was the one that we had,
Yes.
and we had county attorney office look it over.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like everything was in order,
Yes.
so I make a motion, we approve it.
Second.
Oh, yeah.
Right
go
up
ahead.
here.
Haha.
Sorry, Ethan Hines, Deputy County Attorney, yeah, everything's fine, the only note is just we need to update the date in number 2, that's the only thing I make a difference of, but yes, we did review it, everything's fine.
Okay.
I just want to make a note of the date in the contract.
Very good.
Good catch. The contract was began June 5th, Phil. So that. Nate, what date was you talking about?
On the first page, number 2, it says it begins June 5th of 2023. I would just update it to, I guess, whenever,
Today?
yeah, today, would make most sense. And then do a 2-year term, ending August 21st, 2025.
Okay.
Move we approve the agreement for Four Corners Health Department.
And this is just for the chairman to sign too. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Rhodes.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
And Overmeyer.
Yes. Okay, discuss an act on adopting a resolution to set preliminary levies for political subdivisions within the county. You see that in front of you. a little different format than what we've had in the past. And basically, that statute that's listed at the very top of the page there, these political subdivisions, by statute 77-3443, requires them to turn in their preliminary asking to the clerk of the county. And if they don't do it and by a date, it doesn't mean that they can't have the levy. It just means that they can't change the levy again. So then they're really set at that point in time. So the preliminary levies just kind of lock it in, or they can't override it, I think is what it is. So these are, and we have everybody's, but we didn't get anything from the historical side. So. And this here, basically, we just need is this a resolution to accept the levies, preliminary levies.
Motion to adopt resolution for preliminary levies for political subdivisions within York County.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Brooks.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes,
Yes. Okay, and we will get to set those at a further meeting. Okay, and at this point in time, we've made it through everything else in our agenda except for setting wages and dealing with the budget again. So now I'd like to take a short recess, about 10-minute recess, and I've got paperwork I got to get organized and get ready to go for those. So and now we will recess till, let's say, 25 till 10. Okay.
I just shut the meeting.
Okay, we will come back into session as the Board of Commissioners. And at this time, we're gonna start the wage discussion. We're gonna discuss and act on setting wages for the deputy county clerk, deputy county assessor, deputy county treasurer, deputy clerk of the district court, deputy county attorney, and deputy county public defender. I would make one note that when we get to the deputy county attorney, there has been some discussion that there's actually two listed for deputy county attorney. I'm not 100% sure we can say it that way because the deputy needs to be 65% and there is no part-time salaried personnel. So the wage has to be set but not called deputy.
Right.
Because we've only set one deputy's wages today. Okay, so those are the ones you have in your paperwork in front of you. You can see what was set last year at the board meeting August 23rd to set the wages for last year, and then you can see the recommendations in front of you for the wages for the deputies for this year. These are the ones that we set in those offices, and I shouldn't say the only ones. We set the elected officials' wages prior to their terms, before they get to file for their terms. So, and then the elected officials set the wages for everybody else in their offices. So as you can see them, we have the recommendation for the deputy county clerk to be $25.50 an hour. Recommendation for the deputy county assessor to be $27.30 an hour. Recommendation for the deputy treasurer to be $27.30 an hour. Where is Sherilyn's at? That one was in a different one, was it not? This would be the deputy clerk, because she had wrote in this one that she had.
Oh, 3%.
She had turned it in in a different paperwork. There we go, 2447, sorry. That would be the clerk of the district, but I think that's current.
Yeah, that's what she gets paid now.
Yeah, because I did see something somewhere.
3%. I come up with 2520, is that what you're?
Pretty close. I can't remember where I saw the actual number, but I also saw the 3%, so.
And then we have the deputy county attorney at $115,060. That's the recommendation. And then we have the deputy public defender at $65,000. That is the recommendation there too. So those are the first ones that we will take on.
How do you want to tackle them? Do you want to tackle them one by one?
Yep.
Or, if we look at, just looking at percentages, I think the assessor and the treasurer and the court, all came in, right at that 3%. And I believe that's around, most of them were around 80 cents. The clerk was a little bit above that. He does bring that office in line a little bit with what the other deputies are making. So there's a consideration there for me to think, okay, maybe a little bit of a bump there is all right. those are on those three anyway. The Deputy Public Defender, I believe that recommendation is very similar to what was recommended or what was approved last year.
Last year would have been $64,699.
Okay.
Yep.
Deputy Public Defender.
Both last year, the Deputy Public Defender and the County Attorney were set at that same figure.
That's how I know.
And, if we wanna, so if that's a minor increase, there is not a current public defender in that position. So that's a good, place to start. Somebody coming in probably in that type of a position. The recommendation for the county attorney deputy is a fair bit of an increase. The gentleman so Chris is currently serving in that role. And so, like it was said, last year that position was $64,699. There was also the $40,000 offered to that position from the child support, if I
Yes.
follow correctly. So that brought that salary to $104,699 for the current duties that Chris is performing.
And then, of course, last year also, the zoning was a task that office had took on too. So,
Yep.
and that was $20,400. I would agree with some of what Daniel has said, that we did send out an email to everybody. Daniel and myself had signed it. We were asking everybody to keep it at 3% if they could, and if they had hit on their evaluations, hit it above what's expected in one of the areas, then go up to $1. That was our recommendation, is what we asked. As we all know, there is a discrepancy, and the gap seems to have gotten larger with what we're paying different people in different offices. Now, they all cannot be considered the same, so there's gonna be some discrepancy in there, but we have to get, at some point in time, that figured out. And I guess now is as good a time to any to mention that I have had a conversation with Zell, which is doing our HR, and Zell, for the fee that we pay them, will do a study for us, a salary comparison study. And that's just not to different political subdivisions, but they consider it to anybody that would be maybe a place where our employees would go to work. So it's gonna be private sector, public sector, and everything. They will actually be here next month. They, being Zell, will be here next month to explain the process to us. And we need to get going on it so we can show not only our elected officials, but our department heads and ourselves, kind of what we're up against, wage-wise. And I think in some cases, we were lacking for a while. Now I think in some cases, we're leading a little bit in some of the areas. And it would really be helpful to me, especially when it comes time to set wages, we know just where we stand in our neighborhood. And not only, like say, in the political aspect of it, but in the private sector aspect of it too. So I would agree that in the one clerk's office, it's a little bit of catch-up compared to the other clerks, deputies, I should say. And so those I don't have as much heartburn with. There, we'll have to figure out in this case, just exactly where, in my mind, where we want to go with deputy county attorney or Chris's wages, to see if we want to go with that type of increase there, or where we want to be on that one. So anybody else have any other comments regarding the assessor, the treasurer, the clerk, or the district clerk one?
Well, I'm fine with the clerk, assessor, and the treasurer. I don't know about the district court one. I'm not quite sure on that one. Where we're at on that.
So that was, recommended at that 3%.
Okay, they're all four are on 3%. Okay. Yeah, those four sound fine.
Right. And I would, just to add to that, I think the 65,000 for the public defender is a reasonable target. So I guess I'll just, tackle the county attorney, the deputy county attorney. I do have heartburn, in, that, setting it at the wage that it has been recommended. Probably twofold. One, being, I do understand that there's a $40,000 piece in there, but last year that the deputy county attorney wage was set at 64. So this year, if we set it at 115, that's almost 100% increase. Now, I think Chris does a good job for us. I know that he helps to keep the county attorney's office running smooth. And so it's not a ding on anything that Chris is doing. So if we leave that 40,000 in that position, so that brings it to 104,699. So even looking at that, so at 104,699 and a request to go to 115, that's a 10% increase, which is a large jump from where we've asked everybody else to be. And so those are some of the thoughts on where I'm thinking on that position.
Plus the $20,000 was for being.
That was for zoning and.
And for zoning. He's not doing that any longer.
Correct.
So far.
So if last year his salary included the 20,000 for zoning, and he's no longer doing zoning, does that drop that 104,000 down to 84,000? And then we look at building back, or how does that work?
Right, the 104, already includes the drop of the 20,000.
Okay,
So-
so it would have been 124,000 with the zoning, but that's not there, so,
Correct.
okay.
Chris?
Would it be beneficial if I gave a description, because there was 3 separate budgets that were involved in what was effectively my salary?
You can. I think Woody just got clarified what it was.
If you think it'd be helpful, otherwise I'll butt out.
Because basically, as Daniel just put it now, is what we're looking at right now. Is we removed the zoning piece. The zoning
Right.
piece is sitting right next to you. So we removed the zoning piece, so we have the deputy, when we look at last year, what was set, we have the deputy county attorney's wage plus 40,000.
Right.
That's really what we're looking at. What form of increase on top of those two numbers, do we want to give? Gary, county attorney, has recommended the 115,000. And this is one of those times where it's hard to make comparisons. It really is, because county attorney office, well, Gary is gone today because he's down at Corner School in St. Louis for the week. They automatically assume the role of our corner. And so those are calls, those are late night calls that somebody has to make, unfortunately. And there are other duties other than just what is going on that we see every day in court.
If we stick with that 3% thing, that'd be the increase would be like $3,000 approximately.
Correct. So 3% of 104,699 would be $3,140. We did ask that there be a top out at $1. Now that was just a target, which would, on a 40-hour work week, full-time year would be $20,080. $2,080, I don't know what I said.
You said 20,000.
I did
Yeah,
say
2,800.
I'll take that one.
Yeah, you bet. It's
And if it matters for conversation piece, the county attorney's wage is 105,000 currently. It will increase automatically next year, and I think it goes up 5, doesn't it?
107.5. It goes up 2,500.
2,500, okay. Goes up 10 over the 4 years then.
Correct.
Okay. So that is, if you want that piece in there too, that's part of it also.
It's at 105 right now.
It is 105 for the year 2023. That will be by the year. And another piece of it too would be that Gary feels so strongly about what he's offering. He has actually offered to lower his wage to compensate for the difference. But that wage is set by resolution, so the wage is what it is.
So what is the relationship between a deputy attorney and a county attorney? You have a senior position over a quote, a junior position? Does that apply to salary also? How does that all come together? If you do a 3% raise on 104,000, that's 107,000, so that's 2,000 more than Gary's making now.
The state statute dictates that the deputies have to be paid 65%, have to be paid at least 65% of what the attorney or the clerk or whatever it may be.
Right.
So to my knowledge, there is no top.
Okay.
I could probably be talked into doing the dollar an hour, the $2,080 increase. I mean, another piece that it's thought about, but maybe not often thought about enough, benefits, retirement, health insurance, that all plays into the package that employees are receiving.
It does. So what number do you come up with then?
2080 would put it at 106,779.
And a 3% would put it at 108,252.
I still have trouble with him getting more money than Gary. Even though Gary recommends it. I would say just leave the salary where he is, because he's no longer doing zoning. That was what I'd go with, 104,699.
Okay, I've got 105,
Yeah.
99.
Correct, and there was a discrepancy there. The current,
For what is considered the department heads, and we are not currently talking about the department heads, we're talking about their employees. As Daniel had touched on before just a little bit, and anybody can go to our website and our new website, and they can go under the employment tab, and on that employment tab you can see our benefit package that is listed there. You know, it contains 13 paid holidays, vacation, sick leave. It contains retirement. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but the employee kicks in just over 4%. We kick in just over 6%. Insurance at different levels. If the employee is just single coverage, it pays all but $50 of the single coverage. So the package itself is a nice package. It would vary with what the employee is making, what the package is worth, but as I went through and figured it, at a minimum, it's typically around 30% of the current wage that they're making, and that's without figuring FICA and other costs of us in on that too. So, but that information is available to anybody. It's on our website, is under the employment tab. So now we have in front of us, and everybody should have had, you know, these sheets in front of them, and these are the recommendations by department heads. Once again, we had asked that we look at that 3% figure. That 3% figure was talked about early on when we was talking about the budgets. It was inferred that at that time, you know, that would be the overall budget, but we were, you know, looking to see how that would fit, and usually the employment would be at a 3% rate. I would also like to point out that I went and looked a couple years ago at what we had set in 21, and on average, you know, our employees are looking at somewhere between $2 and $3 higher, the ones we set, than they were making then. And I know that Daniel and myself had this conversation, that we had mentioned last year that trend cannot continue. It's not sustainable, and you know, we wouldn't be asking the taxpayers to do that. But the raises that were turned in again this year were at that level, or a little bit more in some cases. So once again, we have to figure that out. We have to set those wages, and I will take them basically by department is how we can go about that. Any other conversations before we get started? And you should have had the numbers from last year also in there for you. Okay, let's take the largest department first, roads department. Harv?
Yes.
If you want to talk, you sure can. If you want to wait and hear what's said, you can too. I'll let your,
You guys are gonna do what you guys are gonna do. I put my recommendation
Okay.
in, and that's where I sit.
I just wanted to get you the opportunity if you wanted to talk. Okay, so we have the recommendation in front of us. For the most part, like I say, from what I seen as I scanned through it, we're looking at anywhere from $1 to $1.50 across the board on most all employees. There was a couple of them that I was missing for some reason.
Because they're on introductory period, so therefore I do not have you set their wages, because when I start them at whatever, I give them steps to attain and to gain as they go forward. So until they come up the introductory period, I do not put them on that list.
Okay, well, they're on the list, but they're not,
They aren't on the list I gave you.
okay. I got this one.
I don't have that one.
Okay,
So there's they are getting a wage, and so I guess what we need to know is whether or not we have to include them in our, which we probably do, just without an increase at this point.
I have a list of all the employees and what they're making right now, is what I have.
Right. Well,
So I just want to make sure I've got it correct. That's the two. So they're in their probationary period right now then?
yes, they are.
Okay. I assume performance evaluations were done on all?
Yes.
Did we have, I don't know what your, evaluation process is? Were there certain individuals that you marked meets or exceeds performance?
Yes.
And I assume those are the ones that have the larger increases that were recommended. For reference, I just plugged the current, the suggested, and so that I could see what the percentages were. Roughly, the recommendation percentage is around 6.5%. There's a few that are more than that. The ones that we heard are targeted a little more.
Mm-hmm.
It's never fun to be the bad guy, but I like we have said before, continuing to increase in significant jumps just can't be sustainable. We're gonna, eventually that has to quit. Wages are a huge part of the county budget, and we want to retain good help, and we want to pay our help what they're worth. But at some point, you have to stop and take a look and say, okay, we've got to slow things down a little bit. I think that having the wage study is going to help us a lot. It's going to be eye-opening for some people, either us or the employees or both. And so I think it's a good thing that we're headed in that direction.
So if we took 25% off each one, what would that increase be? Percentage-wise?
Probably around 5.5%.
These numbers don't look out of line to me. I know it's a huge increase, but
One scenario that I ran was taking a proportionate from what Harvey had recommended, capping the raise at $1, and then adjust, so like the individuals so a majority of the staff received $1.50 increase. So if we proportionally changed that to $1, and then proportionally changed all of the rest of them, the increase average was around 4.2%. There were 2 individuals, just for transparency, in that scenario that still received slightly above $1, based on that they had, the recommendation for them was substantial.
Thoughts?
All of this fits into that final budget number.
Yes.
Are we looking at a final budget increase of 3%, or is the goal 1.5%? What's the ultimate goal? If we keep saying, okay, we're gonna give 3% or 5% or 8% raises to everybody, we're not gonna stay within our ultimate goal of whatever that is.
Right.
So how do we work backward? I don't have the big picture to say, okay, here we are, and this is where we're gonna go, but ultimately it's gonna get handed down to the citizens to make up the difference in where we are. But I mean, I'm looking at some of these numbers, they're $1.50, $1.95, $1.30, $1.50, just looking at some of the different recommendations. And then if I go percentage wise, then it's 82 cents instead of $1 for the 3%. And the hard part of that is the government can say whatever they want to say about inflation, but everybody's feeling the fact that our dollar doesn't buy as much as it did a year ago.
Right.
And I mean, it's a line that we up here behind this desk have to walk, in that, I mean, we have to find a place where we are treating our employees fairly and compensating them for what they're worth, but we also have to answer to the constituents. And, I mean, there's been calls that have come in that say, make sure you pay them what they're worth. And there's been calls that come in that say, whatever you do, don't give them too much. And so we get to walk that line up here.
The other piece of it, when I retired and left my square job, or however you want to describe it, all of a sudden I realized, that supplemental package, that insurance package, your retirement package, your health package, all of those amount to a lot of money. Randy says, that's 30% of your salary. That isn't going down either.
Correct.
So, yeah, it doesn't look like it's a lot, but you add another 30% on that, so if I get a $1 raise, I'm gonna add another $0.33 on it, it's a $1.33 raise. And that's something we don't have any control over either, because the insurance package is, people are just gonna come in and say, here's what it's gonna cost, and so you're automatically locked in.
Right.
On most of these that we're gonna go through today, like I say, when I look back and see where we were at just 2 years ago and where we're headed, the dollar is where, I like to see. That is, on a 40-hour a week, that's $2,080 more a year annually. And then if you go back, like I say, in a couple of years ago, and you add in the $2 to close to $3 that's already been there, so that this individual employee over the last 3 years, could have went up somewhere between $6,000 and $8,000 in wage. In today's world, maybe that doesn't sound like a lot to some, but it sounds like a lot to me. And I think that's where we're at. When I looked at the $1.50 an hour average for the 28 employees, I come up with just under $88,000 that was going to increase in the salary line item just in the wages alone, and then as we start adding the other stuff to it. So the dollar is definitely where I would like to see it top out at, and then we will see where we're at. I look at these wages and I agree with Stan when I hear other people talking that come in the shop. We're not overpaying, but I don't think we're that far off with the package we have. I just don't. And we have to look at that package. That package, we don't see it every other week when that money transfer comes in, but it's there. It's real. It's part of it. And in the private sector, they're hard pressed to find. Yes, some of the banks come close to our 13 paid holidays, but 13 paid holidays is almost 3 work weeks a year off of work and being paid for them. And that's pretty nice, so. I would like to see, if you want to split it out rationally, through the evaluation process and throwing that dollar out there, that is good too. I would like to see that dollar be in the high end.
I would like to see that some of the people would get more than what everybody else is getting, if they've done a great job. So it should be not everybody get $1, some should probably get 75 cents and some should $1.25. I don't know. That's kind of what he did.
Right.
He well, whatever, but.
Right, so basically, so what I did here, there's an individual that received a $1.50 increase, and so I capped that at $1. And then there was a individual that received $1.30, and so proportionately that individual would receive 87 cents. $1.40 proportionate would be 93 cents. $1.20 would be 80 cents.
I like what Stan's saying about merit. You do an outstanding job, it seems like you gotta get more for doing the outstanding job as opposed to just showing up and doing the job. And Harvey's done the evaluation, so he has a sense of who's done above and beyond. So how we can just say, okay, here, Yeah, I think we have to go to the percentage kind of thing, because that, there are raises that are $1.92 here, okay, well, they must have done something better than the guy that was getting a recommended $1.30 raise. So to percentage them back like you're doing, I think is credible. Because people need to be recognized for showing up and doing above and beyond,
Right.
or the reverse of that.
Now, I mean, so just, so there are some individuals that their increase percentage-wise is not quite as much because we topped it out at $1, and they're currently making more. They've been there longer, their base rate is higher. So my formula does not take into account for that. So, like there's an individual, I'm just looking at this right here, one individual is receiving a $1 raise, which is 4.8%. And then there's another individual that's receiving a $1 raise, and that's a 3.46%. So my formula is not perfect. And so I don't know if we want to compensate for that.
The other thing is like there's some discontent here too that we're gonna have to deal with, like we talked earlier, because some people are getting more paid than other ones. Like the call center gets a $23 advertisement for beginning salary, and they're upset about that. So we got that to contend with too.
You get in trouble when you start going down the comparison game road. Call center is critical employee, just like the sheriff's department, the corrections, they're 24/7, 365. Different dog. Just total different. So, I mean, if you want to compare, that's fine, but you got to compare the whole thing, not just the wage. Any recommendations? We'll take these, like I say, one at a time.
Yeah, I think staying with that $1 cap, so I guess I'm on board with not going over $1. Now that is more than the 3% on most all of these individuals. So just so we're aware of that. I would probably, I think some of these might warrant minor adjustments, just based.
Well, how about going with, just take, I said 25 cents off. How about take 35 cents off each one, which then recognizes the hard work that Harvey did to differentiate each person. You know, those that did a good job got $1.50, those that didn't got $1 or whatever. So if we go 35 cents off each one, what percentage increases that? Then we don't have to mess with adjusting.
Sure, yeah. Uh, 4.9%.
Well, actually, because of the wage difference between one party and another party, you gotta forget one or the other. You gotta forget the percentage, or you gotta stick with that maximum, that dollar lid. You can't have both.
Right. You gotta.
So you gotta forget about percentage, because just you sitting there figuring it out, it goes from 4 to 6% for that same dollar.
Correct. Well, if we cap it at $1, if we took 50 cents off of basically what it's doing, that'd be 4.29%. So yeah, basically we have to decide, are we, I think we've talked about capping it at $1. Do we want to do, if we do the proportionate and cap it at $1, that department is receiving an average of 4.29% increase. The other, I mean, we talked about a 3%, that we could target just a 3% increase across the board on that, but then that does not account for any merit increases.
raises.
Right.
Stan, if you made the motion to decrease all the wages, all the recommended wages by 50%, 50 cents, not 50%, 50 cents, I could get behind that. That's gonna give some over $1 and gonna give some just under, and then they still have their merits. It's probably gonna be an average in there.
I make a motion, take 50 cents off of each number recommended by Harv,
The road superintendent?
roads lieutenant. I make that motion, take 50 cents off each one of these numbers.
I would second that.
I'll second.
Give it to Woody. Just beat him just because. More discussion. Hearing none. Roll call.
Bear,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes,
Rhodes,
Yes.
and Oberlin.
Yes. Okay. Roads Department is set. Should have the numbers that he turned in and minus 50%. Okay, next one up, let's just go right to the call center. Leila was not gonna be able to be here today because she's being audited, normal audit, but this is an audit by the FBI on how they work and do their stuff. So she will not be able to be here. Her recommendation, as you see, she's on your sheet, she's got her numbers in there, and then she had her number for her personally. That is what she put in. That isn't from the board, the advisory board. The rest of the numbers are her recommendation for employees. And then the bottom number for the deputy director, that is a position that she wants to add. The amount of overtime that was paid in that office over the last year was tremendous. Would more than eat up that number and then some, because of there was somebody that retired, and loss of help and sick leaves and different things like that has been tough. And so the advisory board did recommend that we go to a deputy position there also. Now, this would not be an elected position, so it isn't anything that has to meet any standards or anything like that. It should just be, this person would be a deputy that would serve under the director. So those salaries, as you can see, are put in there, and she has got the new one that they have at the 23, and the rest go up for there. She's got years of service formulated in there, and different aspects like that. these are higher than what I would like to see also. I know that during our advisory committee, which me and Jack sit in on, the mayor was not able to make that meeting. He was out of the country at that time, but the city administrator was in there, questioning some of the larger numbers that were put out also. And this is, once again, we're gonna keep talking about this wage study. It's gonna be part of this wage study going forward and seeing what we can have. And I don't fault any of our directors, department heads wanting the best for their employees. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. It's just up to us to try to figure out what's right, what we can afford. So that being said, I would start with the deputy director, that position probably needs to be more around the $60,000, in my opinion. And then the rest of them, I would use the same thought process as we just used by, Leila is somebody that does performance evaluations. And if we come up with a number to reduce each one of those, then that should keep the performance evaluations intact.
The 63,780 that you were talking about with the deputy director.
Yep.
And that, the reasoning for that was all the overtime. That was one of the reasonings that she wanted the deputy director. But adding that deputy director is gonna drop that much off of the overtime? Because now she's full staffed, or was.
She was up until a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. There's compliances that the call centers have to meet now too, that we're falling behind on some of the compliances. So this director would, yes, fill in and help in that aspect of trying to relieve some overtime, and then plus do some of the compliance that we're lax on right now.
Well, you know, the other offices, clerk's office, for instance, all of them are cross-trained to do everybody else's job too, so.
Right.
I agree with you. I think we ought to go down to 60,000.
And I, you know, when we look at $30 an hour for that position at the 2080, that's 62,400. So it would come in just under, you know, that position would just come in just under $30 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And for reference point, you know, we hired Leila approximately 5 years ago, and we hired her for the upper 50s, roughly 59, I think, is what we hired her at, right in there 5 years ago.
I agree with everything you've said. Just to play devil's advocate, that would be well, hold on. I reserved the right. 1 second. Just looking at, so it would be an increase where I was looking at the recommended wage increases, and that's where I got mixed up, because what I was gonna say is the 30,000 would come in less than some of the senior staff that's there already. But looking at what they're currently making, it would not. So I take that back. 4 minutes of blabber that didn't need to be
And
done.
when you look at their wages over the last year, their wages was much higher because I think we had some, you know, whereas we have one office that total office had just over 100 hours in overtime. We had some employees that had that in a very short amount of time. Yeah, because I think we had one person over there that had worked 12 or 16 days straight at one point in time. So we have to do something to help alleviate some of that. And of course, this is one that we do share with the city. We run it, but they pay half the cost of it.
What was her salary last year, Leila's? I guess I didn't find it.
Currently, she's at 67.5.
Yeah, the range of, recommended increase is fairly significant. So if you just take a set amount off, it throws it off a fair bit. But if we just put everybody, talking about $1 cap, then that takes away all of the merit.
How if we took like $1.50 off for everybody?
So I'd put the largest increase at $1.95.
I wanted a platform dance. Great, we talked about it, we have to wait for years to get it. I don't think it's good. Well, when you came in, that's what.
And the other wrench we have in here too is the advertising, to get employees to come through the door. The advertising for that one has been 23. And I don't know that she has had any apps in the recent past or going on right now. So that plays a part in that also.
Sure.
If we drop the
that wouldn't
overall
work,
wage down, that will. And this is another department that feels like that, well, the critical, when we look at our critical departments, or what is called critical departments, you know, our call center, our sheriff's department, our corrections, the sheriff's department and corrections over the last year had significant increases, and this one did not. So they, as others, feel like they've been abandoned and they haven't had their increase, so that's what they were going for this year. Now, whether we can eat that all up in 1 year or not is a good question. On this one here, I would entertain lowering $1. And, you know, that's gonna put some of them in that 2 range. But once again, when you're not getting anybody to apply for this position at 23 starting, it's tough to figure out what to do in this position. Because this is a 24/7, this is all the time. And it does take a special skill set. Not everybody makes it through, even that applies, makes it through the training to get to the point of being a dispatcher. Any other conversation?
That's about, I mean, that, like you said, brings, some of them still have a bit of a jump up there, but, you know, just looking at taking $1 off, of the recommended, probably the cleanest way, that way, I mean, basically we're just lowering what was recommended, but lowering it all the same.
Same thing as we just did.
Correct.
So you're saying $1.50 down from what the recommendation?
Just $1 is where you went.
$1.
How about the ones that make it 23? Took $1 off them too? Recommended 23. So they still get a raise then, wouldn't they? If you took $1 off.
They-
Correct, so like, the one, there's 2 of them that, the recommended was to bump them to $23.
Right.
So taking $1 off, they would, only be bumped to 22.
And from where? Where were they?
21.
They were 21.
They're currently sitting at 21, so actually when you look at the advertising model, we would want to bump them to 22. Or 23, I'm
23.
sorry, entry level.
These are hours.
Well, how about if we would knock $1 off everybody except those that are at 23?
Exactly.
And
And
then
you're not,
set
and you're
the
not doing this.
deputy at 60,000 and set Leland's at 70,000. That'd be my motion.
Well, Leela's will handle.
Leela's is separate,
Oh,
but
okay.
we can take the deputy.
60 on the deputy. $1 off everybody else's and leave the $23 one. And those that are over 23 something, take 69 cents off. Megan's at 23.69, take 69 cents off her.
Oh, so that she's not,
Below 23.
yeah, let's see.
Are these hourly wages on a 40-hour week?
Yes.
Is that motion clear or not?
No,
Not yet. Yeah.
we're gonna ask you to repeat it.
Okay.
You're gonna take $1 off of all,
Well,
I'm taking off $1 off if they're $24 or higher. If they're less than $24, we'll take the amount of money off to get down to 23. That's still clear as mud.
So to reduce $1 off of Leela's recommendation of wages,
Yes.
but leave
for all employees, but
the $23 employees as at 23.
I would say, Stan, leave the 23s at 23, and obviously there's a performance evaluation on the one that would be 23.69, so leave it at that, then there also. You see what I mean there? Because there's probably a performance evaluation going there.
Okay.
maybe, just so we're,
Maybe time.
set that one at like 23.50. Would that, or is that not fair? Where I'm going is, then we're leaving hers at not making any adjustment, but I guess we're not making any adjustment to those others either, so that's fine. So yeah. Alright. Wanna read that back and see if it
Well, I
makes
still
sense?
wanna go down to 23 on hers too. That's my motion. Make a motion to lower everyone $1 if you're $24 or higher. And those that are at 23 or above, put down at 23. And deputy director at 60. Because she still would get a raise at $23.
Correct.
Got her.
I think so.
Okay. We do have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
The advisory board on the position of the deputy, that was approved or recommended or decided that it was probably necessary.
Right, yes. Yeah, the two options the advisory had looked at was either a deputy or two new employees, and then that would give each shift the opportunity to have an employee to work part, but we felt like having the deputy would be a better move.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, any other discussion?
Sorry, just, from those that are on the advisory board, are we good with leaving the 23 on the individual that, was between 23 and 24?
I guess we'll find out as the vote goes.
Okay.
Because we do have a motion and a second on that one.
Yep.
To me, that there is obviously an evaluation in there that brought that person higher.
Right.
So it would be nice that there would be a discrepancy in there.
Right.
Because we do not work with these people, just like we, discussed with Harvey. Leela works with them and she knows the difference, and obviously she felt like between the three of them, one was better than the other one. at what they do. So it would be nice to see that discrepancy, but if this is the way it votes out, then.
Can I
That's the way it
offer a
is.
friendly amendment?
No.
Well, you can offer an amendment, yes.
I get in trouble when I do amendments,
I
but,
think we're more clear on amendments now.
I would make an amendment to the motion to, set the individual with a salary of $23.69 at $23.50.
Okay. Okay, I'll second that. So now this is just a vote on just the amendment. It's not on overall, it's just the amendment. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Brooks.
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes.
Bear.
No.
Ziegler.
Yes.
And Sykes.
Yes.
Okay, so the amendment passes. Now, the motion in the amended form will be voted on. Where that is, or an all a dollar.
All $1.
And then
People stay at
two of them we
23.
capped at 23 and one will be 23.50. Okay,
Oh, 23.50, excuse me. Roll call?
any other discussion on this? Roll call.
Bear.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes, okay. Wow.
We're getting there. Slow.
And do Tanya, since she's here.
Tanya,
This is a dance in the back.
we're just, okay, extension office, we have 3 employees at the extension office. That is a recommendation of the extension office. These employees, one is fairly new over the last
Not even a
few
year.
months. Okay, and that is a recommendation. This budget that, although we're talking about employees, the budget from the, extension board usually comes in as lean as possible. They take their minimal increases. I don't know if staffing has been an issue for you as much as it has been for others, but, that, yeah, cross your fingers. They just went through their busy season, obviously, with the fair, so, do you have anything to
Well, I
say,
would just
being
say,
a department
the
head?
extension board, we just took the whole budget as a whole and 3%, so salary was included in our whole, yeah, like, does that make sense?
Mhm.
So our whole budget was increased like by 3%, that included salary, so a lot of that did go to salary, everything else stayed the same or went down, so. That's my 2 cents.
So I don't see Kim on your list.
So she's our temporary summer help.
Fill in.
Yeah,
so it
and
doesn't-
she's
isn't
in the
really
budget as a, she's listed in our part-time custodian.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're talking about those 3 individuals?
Yes, we
I
are.
move the recommendation from her at the extension office to accept those figures.
Second.
Thank you, guys. Any other discussion? I would just make a comment that it seems like in this particular office, we are still probably paying a little bit of catch-up. They were very conservative over the years, and even though we see a little bit more there, there is a little bit, like Daniel talked about earlier, there's a catch-up consideration involved there too. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Bear.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Brooks.
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes. The next one that I have on my list is maintenance. The director will be next, so we just have the one. He's recommending that in front of us.
With that,
Now, also, yeah, I see
Okay.
that Cliff is not on here, but he's listed under building and grounds. Is that where you were going with
Yep.
that?
Yep. Cliff
Powers is, I guess, is we're talking about. He has somebody that does some cleaning for us on the aging, services. And that is one that we need to clean up. Currently, he's being paid, a salary. He cannot be salary. It needs to be an hourly wage. This was something that Zell came in and found, and so we need to set an hourly wage for that one. When you look at what he is being paid salary, it figures up to be like $28 to $29 an hour. Higher than what, you know, when we set it just every 2 weeks, right? We were just paying so much every 2 weeks. But that can't be that way anymore. It needs to be by an hourly rate. And, I guess my recommendation on that is, cause this comes in part-time, you know, after hours, you know, $20 an hour is probably gonna be right in where we need to be on that one. And the other one, recommendation from Cal for the other one was $18.25 an hour.
Are you making that a motion?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Overmar.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Brooks.
yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Okay, I don't think I missed any, did, oh, no,
We got
Lori's.
you, yeah.
That's on a separate one here.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back, it says Lori's wages, we're gonna look at, handy bus and area of aging.
Alvin veterans.
Mhm.
Yes. Good
Do we
thing
have
that,
that now?
I don't think I've received anything.
got a suggestion.
Come on, machine.
And then are you gonna do zoning,
No,
aging, veterans and zoning?
well, as soon as it loads.
Oh,
I'm just looking.
while it's loading, we could do zoning. I think we've, entered into a contract at 20,000.
Yep.
So I would make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Brooks.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Bear.
Yes.
Overmar.
Yes. Okay, there, she loaded up. Okay, the first one I have. The drivers. There we go, handy bus. Lori, you have anything to say? Lori took off. Okay, I didn't look up. I know drivers is always an issue right
Right.
there and trying to pay enough to keep them going. I think we do keep going. And I don't, as you see the numbers in front of you, this is one where we probably still are playing catch up. But that's what she's recommended, so.
Right. They were mostly all under $1.
Mm-hmm.
There was one that was more than $1.
Yes.
I don't know. Is that a driver? Do we know?
She is more.
Dispatch or
Yes,
something?
in charge, yes, the driver. Paul.
Oh.
Yep.
What's that?
We don't have that information.
I don't have it on here.
Okay, that's it. Number 18.
Go to 17, Scott.
17.
Go to 17.
And then it's Lori's.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Huh.
Slow on the uptake.
What are you thinking?
Well, the only one is that one that's $1.50. Do we, I mean, I know we've been going off of, the recommendations and their reviews, etc. But that one is more than what we've recommended. Do we cap that one, or do we continue with what the director has recommended?
Well, when I look at the wage and I think into that catch-up scenario, that particular person has been with us for
Long time.
a while now.
Okay.
And that is at the low end
Yep.
of what a lot of
Yep.
people make, so. I'm willing to accept, what Lori has recommended on that one.
On the,
On all of them, or just the
on-
On a
driver?
handy bus.
The handy bus. Do we wanna take that?
Is there
Or do
any
you wanna
questions
do-
on the aging service? Or area on aging?
So there'd be just another one and maybe, that was more of an increase. Is that the same sort of a situation with that one?
On
Yeah,
handy bus or
I know
aging?
aging. There was a, $12 to $14.
There has been some, I don't have the answer for that one.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know for sure. I think they all look pretty new, but I don't know for sure. I couldn't tell you.
I mean, it is, a low wage that's coming up, maybe more reasonable, so probably isn't a terrible.
The recommendation? Put you on the spot.
As long as we're fine with those two, I'm fine with accepting the recommendations from the handy bus and area of aging.
Is that a motion?
Sure.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Sykes?
Yes.
Ziegler?
Yes.
Bear?
Yes.
And Bowman.
Yes, okay. Everything else is department heads yet.
No, we have veterans. We do the
Oh.
show.
Yep.
I don't think I ever got that paperwork, that stuff.
I missed that one. There it is.
And I can't even tell you what number I have, but I mean, I'll do the $3 an hour raise recommendation.
The $3, you take that one?
Poke the
She'll be happy.
Poke the bear a little bit here.
Daniel, do you have,
I can't
the
remember what number. we
budget
came
side
up
of
with.
things?
Daniel.
I don't have those papers pulled out yet.
I do if I can find it. What's your function number?
803.
Thank you. So, on this sheet, clerk regular time was 41,562.
$20.47.
Well, it figures up, it should have been 42,577.60.
She 37 and a half hours.
You 30,
No.
40?
She's 40.
Which number,
I
the
took,
number I gave you?
no, I took the
Okay.
wage number here, times,
Oh, okay.
40 hours, 42,577.60. What was turned in for recommended budget.
41.5,
Recommended budget?
yeah. So actual last year was 40,691. So that's,
I wonder if she just figured it as a 75 hour instead of a 40 hour. 19.
Let's see.
20,
It's 52 weeks.
2047 times 75 times 26.
Do that again. 75 times.
Maybe 26 papers.
That's 1950.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
I knew it was 1950.
Why are you using 75?
Because
That's
I'm wondering if
39. That's 39.
we thought she was a 37.5-hour week.
Oh, I get you where you're at. Oh, 75 hours.
'Cause the rest of us-
That's 2-week pay.
Right, the rest of us are
So
Right.
75-hour
2047.
weeks.
I got you.
Yes, the wage.
Okay. Yep.
3% is gonna be right at 60 cents.
Yep.
I think that's the case there.
Right.
Should be more than that.
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
So about
75, or you want to? Okay.
Okay.
Kelly, who are the 37-hour weeks? Is that roads?
Who's the what?
Who are the 37.5-hour weeks?
The clerk, assessor, treasurer, and the attorney. I mean, we were all 37.5-hour weeks. We were never 40.
Okay, it's been recommended to go to 2147.
This is for last year.
Sound good to you?
I think so. Let's see.
Yeah, that's what they have paid last year, we have paid the
We'll
Yeah.
do the adjustment
Yeah,
on
that's
the
what I'm
budget.
That's what
Okay.
I did was-
We're gonna do an
Motion.
individual.
Make a motion for, veterans, assistant at 2147.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Brooks,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
Overmeyer.
Yes.
Okay, we have Gary Peterson and Brett Sorensen. Obviously Brett doesn't.
Brett doesn't work here anymore. Gary is set.
That was half of whatever.
Yes.
I think that's.
I think that's everything. And then we've got, because we got the cleaning taken care of too. Okay, so now we're on to discuss an act on setting the wages of our county department heads, highway superintendent, weed supervisor, 911 communication director, area on aging transportation director, maintenance supervisor, veteran supervisor, visitor bureau supervisor. Another thing that Zell came up with was the fact that we should treat all of our department heads equally, and some of them currently are on salary, some aren't on salary. I'm gonna ask Cheryl to come in directly and explain the difference a little bit there.
I can cover it.
Can you grab her? Thank you. There's a manual labor component in what can be and cannot be salary, and currently, of that list that I just mentioned, veterans is on salary, 911 communication director is on salary. Harvey, salary, I'm trying to read through it. Supervisor, visitor bureau is not. And Cal is not. Cheryl, can you explain just, I mean, is it just basic manual labor that they cannot be salary?
Yeah, and it's their primary duty. So if they go out and do something real quick, this manual labor, that's okay, but as long as their primary duty is manual labor, they have to be hourly. If their primary duty is office work, then they have to be salary.
So for instance, when we talk about our department heads like Cal,
Cal is primarily manual. Yes, yeah, Cal and Mitch are primary manual. Harvey goes out, and I did talk with Matty this morning on the rare instance that he would go out and put out barricades or something like that. That's fine. His primary duty is still office work,
okay,
so he would be salary.
He might disagree with you, he's probably not in the office as much as we would think, but yeah, I would assume that would fit.
That's my understanding of your job anyway.
All righty, you can go with that.
But it wouldn't be listed as obviously manual. So anybody that is, primary duty is manual labor,
Yeah.
then that would
That would be
remove them
hourly.
from that. Okay,
They would be on.
okay. Thank you for that.
So would Lori be salary then? Because she's.
Well, we would have to set them a salary.
Yeah,
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 through
her
this.
primary duty is office work, I mean, she doesn't have the labor, so.
And Bob.
And again, primary duty is office work.
Yes.
He's not out doing manual, so he can be
I just want to
salary.
make sure I'm on the right page. So Kalanich.
Okay, so, I would hope that we did the vows on all these department heads. So we know that what the recommendation would be. I did take care of 3 of them. One being Leela in the call center, and Cal the maintenance, and Bob the visitors bureau. And my recommendation for Leela would be $70,000. My recommendation for Cal would be $26 an hour. That's a $1 an hour increase. And Bob Sauter would be $24.20.
Changing him to a salary.
And that would be also changing, I'm gonna make sure I did that right on his. As soon as I find him on here.
090.
Yeah, he's in his own fund. Yep, 24.20. And that would be changing him to a salary position.
Which would be a 2080 week.
2080 annual.
And so that would be $50,336 if I do my math
If
correct.
you did your math correct.
What was that number again?
50,336.
And so those would be my recommendations.
That's a motion then, right?
We can do them separately, or we can pull the recommendations of the rest together into one motion for the department heads. So we have, highway superintendent, weed supervisor, area on aging, veterans. Do we have recommendations from those boards?
We don't have evaluations done on it.
Do you have a recommendation of any kind?
We just say the on that.
I figured. Any place in numbers?
Last year I come in and talked to you about moving Lori to salary, remember? You said we had to leave her at hourly at that time. Now it's a different story. So I haven't talked to Lori about that since then.
Okay. Well, I know that in the past she had wanted to do it
Right, she wanted to go
because
back.
she felt like she could work more hours then and not cost the county, but we
Right.
can't expect that out of our employees anyway.
No, but ever since I judged down in Texas, threw all that other stuff out, it's been kind of up in the air, right?
So what Zell is saying is that we need to
Right.
treat as even. So it would be switching her to salary, and then any hours over 40 would be considered comp time. They would have to bank and trade out.
No, they don't. She wouldn't.
Not comp?
They wouldn't get comp.
What did they call it?
Well, it would be flex.
Flex time.
So if she works
Make that
50
as a
hours one week, maybe she works 30 hours the
Right.
next week. She just flexes her hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
One time plus the other.
Glad you stayed in the room.
Am I supposed to do that too?
Yeah.
Randy,
Am I supposed to do that?
to make a recommendation to take it to
Awesome.
50.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think if your salary, you get to work and then you get to work the next 40 hours and then the next 40 hours and then.
I can't hear.
It's always been that
Both
way.
ways.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Salary's always been
That's
that
a
way
recommendation
forever.
of, okay.
And what about Lori?
I haven't talked to her because we're still under the hourly idea. I'll have to talk to her.
Well, under the hourly idea, but, what would be, I mean, her wage is split in between departments.
This is what she's getting paid.
They have a recommendation of 57,904 for veterans.
5340, how does that figure for yearly?
Well, if you decide what you're gonna do, then we can figure out, whatever you wanna give her, then we'll figure out
I'd
what.
like to give her 3%.
You said 3% for Lori.
Whatever 3% is.
Okay. And then move to a salary basis.
Right, moving to a salary basis as Cheryl has told us.
Purcell.
Still doing some figuring.
On,
What Lori's, are you thinking Lori's or who are you thinking?
oh, I was trying here. On a 2080 is 63,252.
In what?
252.
She was getting
So
paid 23.
2341 times 1.03. Something I didn't do right. Good way to be checking my math. So that'd be 2411. 50,148 and 80 cents. So let's round that up to
49.
49. Um,
5149 for Lori.
That's what she was going to.
That's that 3% of what we're doing.
Okay.
recommendation, I believe, for Mitch was to go to $25 an hour. And recommendation for Harvey would be $79,203.
Okay, do you have numbers for all of them? Do you have a number for highway superintendent, weed supervisor, 911, area and aging, maintenance, veterans, visitors?
Yep.
Okay. Can I read your writing?
I hope so.
Okay. So we have recommendations of department heads of Harvey, $79,203. Department head for weeds, Mitch, $25 an hour. Department head Lori for aging and split between aging and transportation of turning her to salary for $50,149. Department head Cal for maintenance, $26. Department head veteran service, $57,904. Department head for visitor bureau, $50,336. And department head for call center, $70,000. Those are all the recommendations. Okay. Any other discussion regarding those?
I would make a motion to approve that.
Thank you, Daniel.
Second.
Thank you, Jack. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Brooks,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Bear,
Yes.
and Ostermark.
Yes. Wages are set. Budgets will be affected now by what we've put in place. We will talk about budgets. Anybody need just a short break?
Sure.
I know that Jill is around and she will probably sit in on this next part just a little bit. So we'll take a 5 minute. I won't come looking for you this time.
You know the bathroom.
Well, the sign says turn the lights out, so I turned the lights out. Following directions, you know me.
I know.
That is not even right.
You don't
No.
need to give me any more information than I can hear.
Why is he looking at
Everything else in there.
Am I sitting on the next part of the set or what? Oh, Jill.
There's a lot of contentious stuff happening before then.
Yeah. When we get a chance to talk to them, I don't know if we get a chance today or not. When we get a chance, you and I.
Oh, got it. Oh, your own. There you go. All right. We got it. Thank you. That helps.
We wouldn't be on the same page.
And it's nothing personal.
No.
It's all a matter of here's the policy, here's where we are. This is big business. We got 120 employees.
We had to have $100 million a year in the county.
I understand what people like to go with
and stuff like that.
but when you're talking about a
They only got
percentage
3 or 4 million.
you're talking about-
Percentage for a $17 employee and a percentage for a $29 employee. There's a difference.
There's a big difference, and that gap just keeps going like
Yeah.
this.
Exactly. So
Several years ago, I brought up about dropping the percentage idea. You want to give them a dollar raise, give them a dollar raise.
They had to have another entity involved in order.
But they've been on this percentage thing for so long, I think they're hard to get off of it.
They're not taxable.
But last year I come in because Lori asked me to get her back on salary, but because of the administration up there, they had to take it off the salary and put her on an hourly wage. And she was putting in 60 and 70 hours a week. And she didn't want to charge the county that much time.
I know the camp, I know whatever, but.
And I want to go back to.
If you park them motor graders,
Yeah.
there were more hours on the roads that you're not gonna make up with the workers. Park them one day, and that's 100 gallons of fuel, at $5 a gallon, $500.
3,600 plus this.
You got 13 of
We're
them.
gonna end up with more money spent. That's what I
I
see
mean,
happen. I want to go to labor.
That's what it costs to have a supervisor.
Yes.
You're gonna have so many paper ballots, they'll for all your amendments and everything.
Yeah.
All your constitutional.
I got you.
Means
The
that.
reform by Dan Lambert, years ago, that.
We'll all be on one ballot. They used to
Taking
be
those 2 curves out, took them about.
two-sided.
Take them out.
Well, our paper ballot is like that right now. Everything's on there, might be 30 or 40 items, but you got 10 or 40
Back
items.
in there, they were put.
And each one, you're gonna keep track of each one of those.
That used to be called SYA Road.
You know, with only how many thousand voters in this county?
Gresham.
8,000.
Gresham's been there since.
Plug in so I can stay tuned.
How long did it take to count 200 votes?
Where do you want me to
They went around.
Can I just sit back there?
They didn't have that problem.
I don't know that we'll have anybody testify.
You don't think you are?
Yesterday, you,
I hear what you're saying.
I don't need it now.
You know nothing?
Mics are on. Say all on.
Yep,
We are live.
we are.
No, it's another aggressive.
Okay.
No, it died.
I don't know.
I don't need it.
You have a good day.
You too.
Did you drive up this morning, Jill?
No, I wasn't given this morning.
Listen, how are you? I printed out your thing, but it came out and I need my microscope, to read that. little-
I know, I was just downloading those into a real report.
That's all right. I can read that and stuff.
No, I understand that, I can definitely, I have to work on trying to get those Excel sheets in the way I want them. They don't work with me, but
They won't see that. So this is about years ago, we said it was a study from the master's degree. And it's in 6 counties, if I can't. Hard to control. MITs, players possession as a part of this engagement. So, well, that is exactly
of course, yeah, I can see that.
Yes.
Is this Bob Sutter?
Yes.
It's going to 33.6.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that hourage of 24.20, and then that times 2080.
But he's salary.
Right.
And his salary, you said, is 33.6.
No, 50,366.
50,300. Gotcha. I knew I forgot something.
That's right.
Just 50,000.
Okay. And lastly, the budget workshop. I will say that this budget has been probably the most challenging one that I've had to deal with in the 9 years that I've been here. Not all 9 years on the budget committee, but it has been somewhat challenging. After the last workshop, we went through every function of Fund 100 and then every fund thereafter. And I don't know that we necessarily need to do that again. We did come up with a list, Daniel and myself came up with a list after the last one of some places where we wanted people to hit. And we went around and visited with them again. And we had some ideas of what to do different with some of the money. First off, we had the cash reserve that we wanted to grow from 500 to 750,000. Recommendation would be doing an interfund transfer from inheritance, so not put that on the taxpayer's back and do that from inheritance. We did ask the treasurer, 603, to bring the budget down to 315. And there wasn't very good conversation in there, and I would take responsibility for part of that. In the meantime of us asking for a budget to go down, there was actually a new employee hired. That department felt like that employee was a replacement employee that had been there, although that department hadn't had this employee for well over a year, so we felt like it was a new employee. That employee is hired. That brings it impossible to get it down to 315. I did have a discussion with Megan last week. That discussion wasn't the easiest discussion I've had with anybody. I am somewhat disappointed that the treasurer wasn't at that workshop. She's out of town this workshop to explain her case, but we have the budget in front of us, and do you have the new numbers?
Michelle was gonna come down and talk, I think.
Okay, so we'll have to check and see if Michelle can come down and see to do that. Third is 610, the data line. We were gonna reduce line item 0502 by 20,000. The zoning, 608, we was going to reduce line 2,500 I have to 10,000. Clerk of the district court, adjustments were already made. Building and grounds, we reduced line 0403 by 6,000. Jill, are you keeping up, or did you have these already? Oh,
Yeah, these are the ones that were in.
I apologize too. Have you, Jill Clay is sitting here now. She is here she helps us with our budget. She's here to do the audit. Stan there is here. Woody is there. There's our new commissioner, sorry. So anyhow, on to the sheriff. Building ground, we reduced the 0403 by 6,000. The sheriff line item of 55,000, that is for the vehicle. That can be handled one of two ways. We can leave it, obviously. We can reduce it. If we reduce it, we could buy it out of inheritance. This is the cruiser that he was proposing to buy 3 cruisers, 2 come out of his federal forfeiture money and 1 out of this fund. It might look the cleanest for future budgets if we do an interfund transfer to cover this one also. That way that money, otherwise we're gonna show a discrepancy come next year when he wants more vehicles again. Now that if he gets more federal forfeiture money, they could come out of there, but that is an idea that Daniel and myself had. 662 child support county attorney, we asked that budget to be down to 70, and Chris turned one in this morning in really small writing. He got down to 69, 318.84, so he got that down there for us. Next one, we had asked the noxious weed to come down to 111,600, and that one got there on that. And then veterans total budget, we asked that one to come down, and did you have the numbers on that one? We asked that one to be 138,600. We would have affected these with wages yet today too.
Yep, and we were 139,500. So when we changed the wages that we just set, I think that one will come into compliance, if you will.
Okay.
Be pretty close to what we asked for anyway.
And then lastly, in the roads fund, reducing that for the pickup to 70,000. Now, once again, this could be an interfund transfer to supplement that, but this pickup is not a normal expenditure for the roads department. It isn't an annual expenditure, so that could be one that obviously could be purchased out of the inheritance fund and would be just fine. So those are the changes that we had asked for in hopes of getting what it looked like at the time of being about 900 and some thousand over, dropping that tax asking in half. And we feel like we achieved that to get that further down. So that's where we're at right now. Now, I guess what I would ask is what, welcome, by the way. Are there any other ones that we want to look at? And I guess we'll get Michelle up here first, but as we're thinking about this. So Michelle, do you have some corrected numbers from the treasurer's office? Because I know, did you say you and Megan had worked on some numbers, but she took them with her?
Well, no, I do, actually, I lied. I have copies for each.
Thank you. So this has got corrected budget numbers in there?
Not budget numbers, it just shows like our expenditures on it.
Why don't you, Michelle, if you're gonna speak some more, which I assume you are, that mic will pick you up just a little bit better.
Great.
No, that's fine.
I think this was, I think she had 72 on that, so that went down 1,000. I think this one here was 115, and that went down to 106. I'd have to go find her pages for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, I know we dropped raises, to
340.
help that out.
So what I am seeing here is you do have a bottom line figure of 342,659.
Bottom line, is that what you want?
Yeah, which is down from the 354. Obviously, as I did some of this and as I visited with Megan that day, the one thing that come to my attention was in your office, there was 139 hours of overtime paid out over the last year.
Yeah.
It would be,
Which, me and Megan discussed, and I enforced it as of Thursday last week. There's absolutely no overtime that is going to be happening. So everyone's going to be working that 37.5 per week, to help cut any of those costs and try to keep the 5 staff. I know Megan and I's goal, I know it was kind of questionable on why we hired another staff. Between the three of us, so Angela, Sarah, and me, and then Megan. Megan's plate's pretty full, especially being a new treasurer and trying to get stuff figured out and doing all that stuff. We have been pretty busy, but as far as bringing that other staff, that allows me then to get my tasks done, but then I also need to learn the treasurer's tasks. If God forbid, something happened to her or she's on vacation, anything, I need to know how to do her job. Not that I'm taking over her job, but, having that other staff member in there will allow me to get that trained in, to get better equipped, because there's a lot of stuff I don't know. But yeah, so like I said, we are completely eliminating any overtime. We have 2 girls that are working 8 to 4:30, and then the other 2 are working 8:30 to 5. So.
okay, so I guess the way I looked at it, if you're successful, with eliminating the overtime, that was roughly $40,000. Cause I took it by an average of $30 an hour, and, so that's roughly $40,000. And then, of course, if you, enforce the 37.5 compared to the 40, then there should be some cuts. And we should get to the end of next budget year and see that there was hopefully some savings.
Yes.
Where you ended June 30th in 23, ending June 30th in 24. I hope those numbers.
You see it decrease,
Yeah, that
yes.
we don't see the increase of the salary on top of that number. We should see, somewhat of a trade-off, somewhat of a wash.
Yes, we're paying another staff, but that still doesn't amount to what we were paying in overtime that we.
Those numbers kind of wash, when you look at the 40 and what you're currently paying the staff, but it's the 2.5 over the year with 4 employees that will add up over the time.
And there's gonna be times that, like me and Megan had discussed, especially the last day to pay taxes and like September 1st, we're gonna be working longer hours, but we're gonna try and cut that more during the week. So if we have a chance, some point in time, if we can make it like an hour and a half lunch or somehow cut those hours so that way we're not getting overtime.
Well, obviously you have 3 really busy times a year.
Yeah.
And we're in one of those times right now.
Correct, yeah, it is definitely busy, but.
Daniel?
Just a question, the overtime that was paid, how is that, how is that figured? I mean, on the budget, we have a holiday and overtime pay, but the actual for 22-23 is only $9,000. So where does that overtime pay come from?
We really didn't start getting overtime until, I wanna say, I really don't think it was more until like the end of last year, first of this year. When we lost a couple staff and then did a whole lot of switching, but I don't know if that answers your question.
It was actually before that, because Megan was actually involved in it too. And she would have been placed, as deputy, she would have stepped up and assumed the role, but she wasn't placed until October of last year. And she was involved in
Because
that
Brenda was
list
still
of overtime too.
treasurer and getting paid treasurer. Okay. Yep. Yeah, that was a hard, it's a, nothing you can really explain on that one.
Right. I'm just wondering where
Where it's at?
Yeah, where that money shows in the budget. I don't, maybe it don't.
On this one,
Did Cheryl look those numbers up?
She did. I'm trying to find that email now. Where is she? She's not accounts payable.
Payroll.
I don't see it now, but I know I printed it off, but I think I gave that to. Maybe she handed me that in paper.
Unless it's just paid out under the regular clerk, regular
Like it
time.
says, holiday overtime pay, is that 105, 100?
Right,
That looks like where the overtime would be paid out in there.
should be, but if there was 40, how many hours was it? 100 and some?
You have to ask Cheryl to print that off again. No, it was around $40,000 worth. Yep, ask her to print that off and she got me. Okay, while he's grabbing that, any other questions that anybody'd have for Michelle right now?
I guess I don't always see that it's bad for somebody to have to wait in line to get some work done. We do that when we're buying groceries, we do it when we're at the post office, which probably isn't a good example. It's not a 12-month delay that people are experiencing. And granted, some people can't come until 5 o'clock, but we have to cover that time too. And your allocation of when the staff is there to work. Overtime isn't good, but another staff member isn't just the hourly wage, it's the 30% salary package that goes with that. So it's more than just, okay, we got a new person, it's worth $40,000. No, it's worth $52,000 because it's, so anyway, I'm not crazy about just adding another staff member.
Right.
I have received a lot more concerns about what's going on the roads than I have with what's going on in the treasurer's office in terms of feedback from the patrons in the area. Maybe I'm not out there for somebody to say, oh, Woody, by the way, I had to stand in a line for half an hour to get my license plates.
Understandable. I mean, it's more than just, people standing in line and waiting. Obviously, we have other tasks than just being at the window and mail and phones. I mean, we have all that stuff going on too. I remember when I first started 3.5 years ago, we had 5 staff in the office. So, I mean, it's nice getting back to that. Not saying that young kids is an excuse or anything, but we all of us have kids. So if one of us gets sick or the kids get sick or appointments, any of that stuff, one person's gone, that really puts a hinder on the office on whether we're getting tasks done or getting phone calls answered or helping up at the counter.
I think part of what got brought up to Woody during our discussion was that county government we're just in a time of year where expansion shouldn't happen until you do have a budget, because we don't, we blow by June 30th and our budgets are all erased, and we don't set a budget until September. And that was a misunderstanding about the time frame of that hike was really wait till we have a new budget and a new set in budget, and these should be talked about and discussed. And unfortunately, this individual was put on, a couple weeks ago, prior to having a budget set, and that, I mean, it's forced our hand, or forces a hand on this now, because if we don't approve a budget, is there a wrongful termination involved in that too? I mean, it's unfortunate that the communication wasn't better. So there is the numbers I looked at. They're 132.75.
Right. And so maybe some of that was taken as comp time. I'm not sure. I don't know. It might be something where we just need to look into how we're paying out and utilizing overtime pay and whatnot. I'm glad to see that we've gotten a little bit lower, closer than where we were. You know, we're similar to where we had a budget, a little bit under what we approved for a budget for last year. So, I mean, yes, it's unfortunate. I think, you know, there might have been an area where we could have saved a little bit had we approached it a little different, but like you said, we are where we are. And so I'm glad to see that we were able to move some things around and get that number lower than, it's not where we had targeted, but it is closer than what originally came in.
So on our list, this one, like I say, we had it in at 315. It's at 27. I think she's got written on there. It's within 27. Somewhere in there of the total number. So I guess we'll just look at a consensus, move forward. We're not setting the budget today, but the numbers that we come up with today need to be pretty firm, so we know where we stand. We have the valuation certified as of last week, so. Any other question for Michelle while she's here? Thank you, Michelle. Okay. Now, as I read through everything else, is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up about any of those?
I would suggest that the sheriff one, that we do a transfer, like an interfund transfer from inheritance to the sheriff's budget for that 55,000 for that vehicle.
Okay.
I don't know, how's the cleanest way, like, do we put 55 and then if it's comes in and we get it for 45, wishful thinking, then we can only transfer 45, or or do we just automatically transfer 55 and?
I think if it's coming from inheritance and you're gonna leave, because we're talking, we're gonna leave the 55,000 in the sheriff line item, correct?
Right.
Okay, so then you've got your authority in the sheriff's department for the 55,000.
Yep, correct.
Basically, all you're doing is providing the revenue source into the general fund.
Yep.
To offset asking,
Right.
property tax
Yep.
asking versus that.
Correct.
We budget the inheritance fund to spend
Yep.
it all anyway, so whatever number it comes in, then I think you can transfer whatever the actual is. Because you don't have to worry about an authority
Right.
issue
Right, sure.
going, and it's not like that transfer is being repaid. So I think you're okay to, you can budget the 55,000 transfer.
Yep.
If it comes in at 45, you do an actual 45.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, because once we have a budget that's finalized, the elected officials have the right to spend what's in their budget.
Right, correct.
Although we don't want them to see them really spend 100% of it, but they have the right to go out and spend that, so then we're just moving the money over.
Right.
It makes it cleaner for future.
Because you're capturing that is an expense, a normal expense
Right.
of the sheriff's fund, yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So then we would do that on that one. Any thoughts or comments on the interfund transfer for the giving us a little bit more reserve cushion? And this would be inheritance money to give us that reserve cushion.
I think a cash reserve makes a lot of sense. You know, you don't need to be going out and trying to borrow the money because you don't have enough means to accomplish your salaries or, you know, or whatever it is. And coming out of that particular fund, it's sometimes looked at as a slush fund. It's not a slush fund, but it's, I mean, it does give us the latitude. It keeps us from raising the rates back out to the patron. So I would make a motion to transfer the $250,000 from the inheritance fund to the reserve fund.
I don't know that we'll need to make a motion on each individual item. I guess what I would see is if there's
Conceptually,
any,
then I'm just saying I can see.
Yep.
and I can
if
support
there's
that
any,
conception.
yeah, then, you know, if there's no support, if there is support, then we'll take and tackle them there. But if there's anybody that's against it, you know, speak up, so to speak.
Yep. So, I guess, how are we doing on this list?
We're looking right down at
Yeah.
the data line item, we went down to 20. And that's because we're planning on using the LACTF to purchase our data processing needs this year, and we left a little bit left in there. Zoning, we had lowered that, reduced that down to 10, reduced to 10, right? Or reduced 10 out
by
of it.
10, yeah, we cut
It
it.
only had 10 in it.
Yes.
On the zoning.
Everybody good with that? Building grounds, that 6,000 that we're asking for be reduced was a $6,000 for part-time help that he had put in there. And just asking that to be reduced and eliminated. We talked about the sheriff. County attorney budget got down, noxious weed got down, veterans got down, and the roads fund. I guess on the roads fund, I would just say that we just allow a purchase and just purchase it out of inheritance.
I think
Because
so.
I don't know that we need that involved in his budget on that one. So back to, okay, now I know that Tristan is here yet. Tristan had forwarded some numbers to everybody about adult diversion. This is somewhat of a last minute thing. At least the information came in last night. So Tristan's here, and I know he's here for another half hour before he has to sneak out. Does anybody have any questions for him in regards to that? Now, that would be a whole addition, obviously, to the budget. You know, not a new program to York County, but it hasn't been around for a number of years. It was here prior to you?
It was eliminated during Candace's tenure, so that would be sometime between 2012 and 16. I tried to get it restarted when I was county attorney. I didn't get any traction with it. And then Tristan brought it up this year.
So there we are. Any questions of Tristan? I know that there was a lot of information to go through last night. I went through most of it, but I was going through a lot of other stuff. I know that at times we see numbers that say there should be savings, but then the savings don't necessarily come in, and we spent more money, and personally, I'd like to see a little bit more time to look at something, to be able to investigate it a little bit more myself than the time frame we're in right now. If you want to explain anything above and beyond, you sure can. I guess my first question is, if we add this person, if we add clerical staff, where are they going to be at? Because office space, as Chris can tell you, we turned in a file cabinet into an office for him. We just don't have that here.
And so as of right now, in that packet, we kind of explained that Gary, Chris, Day, and I, for kind of that clerical, hours, she'd be able to kind of help us on that end, help us save some stuff, or save some money on that line item. And then along with that, it'd just be adding that one adult diversion person, and we do have an extra desk, up there for right now. So I'd stay in my office.
In child support.
It is in child support.
Okay.
And so, I don't know if I'd move around or if we'd have a diversion officer move around, but we do have that desk. I've talked to Gary on what he thinks of future, stuff, and yeah, like you said, it's kind of just up in there on where the space would come from if we would expand a little more. But as of right now, we should be good on desk space wise. So just in general, from kind of like the first worksheet that I gave you guys last time, it was around that like 130 something, and then me and Chris and Gary kind of had a come to brain type of moment where we moved some stuff around, saw what we could cut, putting Day into that clerical space saved a lot of money. We realistically would not hire the position until end of October, early November, so that saved up on the personal wages side of things, and then me jumping in to get the program kicked off as soon as possible, taking on a couple cases to get the revenue started. That would be kind of some really key points I see in there. And like I kind of went over in that little packet, this is a restorative justice trend that we're seeing across the US, across Nebraska. There are plenty of other counties similar to our size, bigger than our size, that have been doing adult diversion for a good period of time. And they've seen these benefits for the county. And I think in the end, it is kind of showing us that we're buying into these maybe 100 or 120 people that are coming through the system. And eventually, and it's always my goal to save the taxpayers and our people living in the county as much money as possible. There are grants available. We didn't meet the deadline for this year on the grants that I've found so far, but they should be available in the coming years. And so that's some of the.
And most of those grants are to expand an existing program, they're not to establish a new program. And as far as savings go, even if 25% of the savings are realized, the program pays for itself in the first year.
Right.
Even at 25% of that guesstimate that we have.
Any questions?
So there was two numbers in here, potential savings for probation and potential savings for jail. What, so it says in there, District 5 probation office cost of a low risk offender is approximately $4.50 a day. And then the next sentence, there's potential savings in 109,000. What all went into that 109,000?
So we calculated taking that projected 120 cases off of probation, and that was just the 450. I think just by the I think we did a 3/4 period, so it wasn't the full 365 days, but it was whatever you have split that into the 109,000. And so we could possibly see more taking away, because the program will focus on the low to medium risk, not trying to get people on the program that for sure will be kind of repeat offenders. And so we could potentially be grabbing some of the higher level that are costing probation maybe a little more than 450 a day too. So.
And those calculations were made, the jail housing calculation was made at $50 per day. which is what it costs us on our cheapest contract to house somebody off-site. I'm guessing that if you asked Mr. Marsden, he would tell you that we can't house prisoners for $50 a day. Not when you combine medical costs, not when you combine all of that, none of which was included in that calculation. These are individuals that would not likely go to prison, which would be Nebraska taxpayers footing the bill rather than York County taxpayers. These are individuals who stay in the community, either serve their time here in the county jail or serve their time here on probation. They are individuals who are directly affected by our taxpayers. The probation number is a little misleading to the point that we did not get information regarding York County's share of the $450 a day. So that is a little over the top as far as that number goes. But given the time frame that we had from inception to conception, Ms. Rodriguez from District 5 wasn't able to give us that exact number.
And another savings point that I didn't include because we didn't just have the numbers is, I kind of brought this up a little, is attorney fees that get billed to you guys. And I know maybe one of those points against adult diversion rather than the juvenile or catching those side of things is we see a lot of the attorney fees come from juveniles that are involved in court cases for long periods of time. And in my eyes, getting adult diversion could hopefully get some of those cases kind of figured out, because it does end up being their parents could be potential diversion clients that we would, be helping, and hopefully eliminating their case would be a big part of the program. And so it really is a reform kind of promise and buy-in for all. I mean, it wouldn't be focused just on York City, but focus on the smaller communities that we get people from every once in a while too. So.
Chris, do you have any idea why the program was scrapped years ago?
I don't. I tried having that conversation. I got shut down during that conversation. I don't know whether it was a funding issue or a lack of interest issue. And by lack of interest, I don't mean candidates, I mean from the attorney's office itself. I have no idea.
Okay.
I do know that it would be immensely helpful. And some of these people that go through the court system might be spared. It alleviate a lot, just to say it nicely.
Any other questions, Tristan, while he's here? I mean, to me, obviously we're not passing the budget today. I would like a little bit more time on this one to absorb just a little bit. It's not a huge number into the budget, but it obviously is an addition to the budget. And in a year that we were hoping to find all kinds of ways to cut the budget. So that's the reality is that's where I'm looking at it on this one. Sometimes it's hard to see the savings until you see the savings, so.
Well, and diversion by its very nature to that end, you don't see the savings because the bill never comes across your desk. It's preventative in nature, and those preventative programs, you don't know how much it costs to replace a road because you've been maintaining the road. You stop maintaining it and suddenly it's $10 million to fix a bridge.
And I think something else to note is just on the juvenile diversion side of things, it will kind of mirror somewhat of a successful program now that the county attorney's office is just working its hardest to make the program succeed. And we've seen just from juvenile diversion in 2022 and 3, we had, I think, around 15 clients, and this year we ended up with 65. And so,
which are individuals who would be appointed attorneys going through the juvenile court system, in a system that currently, over the last year and 2 months, has risen by 229%. Those are 65 individuals that Mr. Perry has removed from that system.
Very good. Well, I don't know that we're gonna make a yes or no decision today on it, so, but thanks for the info.
Does anybody else have any other questions? That way you can absorb and we can input these numbers. Doesn't mean they're going anywhere right now, but we can input these numbers and see where we're at.
I just remember Dale Radcliffe on the school board, before we had an elementary counselor said, you know, how do you put a value on a kid if you rescue him? You know, how do you put dollars in? And he was a very conservative, fiscally minded person that didn't want to spend an extra 10 cents if he didn't have to, in a good way. But he really supported that because he saw the potential of taking somebody out of the system and putting them back into the world. And I do think with an adult program, it's going to take longer. They've already had 20, 30, 40 years of learning how to mess up. So change in that is not going to be an immediate, here's your check for what you just saved. It isn't going to happen that way.
Yep.
Okay. As we look at that, like I said, the rest of the budget as a whole, and hopefully everybody's had an opportunity to look that over. Is there anything else that they want to discuss at this point in time?
I have something. I'd like to add $4,000 back into the election budget. It's the difference that I think would be needed to count ballots by hand rather than using by machine. Take a little more time, and it might have to have 2 shifts of people to count those, but we've got 12 stations for counting. If you have those 3 or 5 people doing a hand count versus the machine count, I think it could raise the trust level of our community in terms of all the falterall that's out there about machines and the Chinese chips and on and on and on. I just think it would behoove us, and it's going to put more work on Kelly. It's going to put more work on the whole election process. But I think $4,000 would cover the difference with the primary and the other. And it just comes, not just, but it involves tallying 40 different items in the last election. And I think in doing that, we're going to see, for one thing, we don't have to have the results turned in 5 minutes after the election's over. So it takes 2 or 3 hours more to get it done. I just think, and we had a couple of presentations or spoken to address this morning already, but you're going to have no questions with regard to the integrity of the machines or the Chinese chips that are going in them. Yeah, it's an Omaha machine, but the chips are Japanese or Chinese chips that are going in. In 2016, we saw all kinds of the Democratic Party feeling that machines, this election's been stolen, and you had it in 20, and then you have it again now out there. They're never on the web, it's always on paper. The tally gets made, you can text, take a picture of it, text it back into you, and we don't have to worry about anything being encrypted and stolen or moved on. You still have the paper ballots that you're going to recount. You still have the canvas that is operational. The ES&S software that's out there, lots of criticism about the quality of that and the integrity of that particular product. But it's not without challenges. You're going to have long days for the workers. You might have to have 2 crews of workers. I don't know how that works procedurally, but maybe you have a crew that comes in and works till 4, and then you have a crew that works till 10 or 10:30 or 11. There's questions about how accurate are you going to be. If I'm doing tally marks for 200 ballots at Gresham, how accurate are they going to be if 3 people are doing that system? It's an increased cost. It's going to be slower. And you're going to have to recruit more workers if we have to go to 2 shifts. And you have a budget increase. But I just think for the quality and the integrity of York County, we'd be better off doing a paper ballot and a tally count that way. And there are systems out there that are teaching people how to do a count accurately. So it's not, oh, I forgot to tally here. I've got a sheet, I've got 3 columns. Okay, the first time I go through, I do the first tally. Or the first column. The next time I do the second column, third time, third column. Then you turn it over and do it again. It's not without challenges, But I just think the benefits to York County and our citizens, our electorate, people that are doing the elections, it's gonna have merit. But it's an increased cost, and I'm estimating $4,000. Kelly might be able to put numbers to it and say, no, it's gonna be $8,000. I don't wanna, and has nothing to do with Kelly or Kayla or anything with, the people that we have running our ballot. Or Marilyn, we had a couple of bills in there for the canvass that took place with the election this last week. It's not a credibility factor on our people. It's a credibility question that's being raised by people all over the country and here in Nebraska and in York County with regard to those electronic machines. Is that in our best interest? And I just think we can reduce all of those questions if we add some more money and we just do a complete paper ballot and a paper tally, take a picture of those numbers, text them in. Our numbers from the 12 places that are counted can be added together. You tally those up and you text them into the State Department. You never have to have a machine involved, just transporting information and data.
So your request would be to increase that line item by $4,000. My understanding of that is, even if we was to increase it, the Board of Commissioners has no say over how an election is run. That is done by the election commissioner, and which in our case is our clerk too. So we could increase it. That doesn't necessarily mean that's going to change it, right? That doesn't. Those two things don't go hand in hand. It would allow, obviously, more expenditure on her part if she needed it, but it would not mean that she's going to do that, the way I understand it. Any other comment on that particular one? Did we lower that one, Daniel? Did we have a different number? I don't have it on my list as 607. We left it at the rate from the year prior, right?
Yes, correct.
Right, is what we were looking for on that one.
Yeah.
Any other?
Which is, what, 30,000 higher than the actual.
Right.
22, 23.
Right. Any other comment on 607?
So basically, we requested 121,894.
Yep.
Is the request that's currently on the table.
Correct.
Right. And what you're saying is you'd like to see it go to 125,894.
And then requested Kelly to do the paper ballot and throw the machines up.
Well, that would obviously be done at a different time than through the budget process. That would have its own issues. Well, what I would.
It is an issue that a lot of people talk about, however.
One thing that crossed my mind, it's not a large item, but might be one that we could look at to help bring the tax ask down. In the general fund, miscellaneous, we added in contractual services of $54,000 for our contract with Zale. I wonder if maybe that one could be paid out of ARPA. And the reason I went that direction, ARPA was sent to us in part for employee retention. A good HR department creates a good culture, which hopefully would equal to employee retention. They will also be conducting our wage study, which I think will help with some culture and employee retention. So, I mean, again, it's not a huge number, but it would be 54,000 out of the tax moved over to that ARPA fund.
Okay. Any questions of Daniel on that one? And the only other one that I had that was new is, there was a request to pull health insurance out of all the individual elected functions under the fund. And I think that's a valid request. Starting at this time of year seems to be a little tougher than if we was to start fresh on 7/1, say of 24. So Kelly and myself did look up, there is a 614 insurance line that can either act as a function under the 100, or it can act as a fund on its own. So the nice thing about having it under the function, under the 100, would it give us the budget authority if we had, you know, some insurance line runovers. We already know of a couple cases where people are gonna jump on board our insurance now for other reasons. And so it would be something that I would want to give it either an interfund transfer to work, get its seed money going, or if it was a fund, it'd be an interfund transfer to give it that seed money. The fund would act differently. The fund would retain that money year after year after year, whereas anything under the 100 gets swept away and it's gone, but it gives you that budget authority. So what we would have to work out and figure out would be if we had it as a fund, which would retain the money, and then we would just put money into it every year to run our insurance after the next budget year. If we needed it this year, how do we code out of it? How do we get to it? If there are some overruns in certain offices. And that would be, I don't think it'd be impossible, but we would want to make sure we got everything just right. So the gal that's sitting in the table in front of us, when she comes and audits us, we got the answers of where did that money go or where did this money go. But I think it'd be a good idea to get ready for, especially if we're talking about doing this next year at the beginning of the budget year, which isn't, you know, our budget won't be set yet, but at least that would give us that 614, it would get us ready. And I would lean a little bit more towards the fund itself versus the function under the 100 fund. Because, and Jill had brought this up earlier, we are dealing with a little bit of employee buy-in money. You know, we have employees that money is going into it at the rate of the single, or possibly even the rate of the family option, whatever they may have. And if that is swept away, even though their funds are being expended on insurance, it might look better if it was in its own fund.
Sure.
You know, so that would be one that I would recommend that it'd be new, but it'd be an interfund transfer to give it some seed money. And that would be another one that we don't necessarily have to have, like the adult diversion, don't have to have the final decision today, but we would want to input the numbers to see how it affected the stuff for us. But that's the only other thing I had in the long list where we started with. Does anybody else have anything else? I know David has been sitting here the whole time. And thank you for being here for that. David, on your budget, I know that I received an email from you about an offer that's out on the table right now. We set the wage basically today at the number what you had said, and it would be my opinion that we just input that number into your budget and make your budget work with that number by expanding it to that number, and in hopes that you can get a deputy and things proceed. You know, so I would say that's where we'd be on that one, and that's what we plan on putting into your budget line item.
The only ones that, do we wanna go through and talk about, like, CASA and Blue Valley Hope and,
Bring it up.
Yep.
I mean, they are what they are. Those have been the request. I think we dumped the one out of it. You know, the city had requested, we left the library in there, but we
Yep.
dumped the other one out, and everything else we put in as we requestings. And, we did have, for instance, on Hope, we did have a memorandum of understanding that was forwarded to us from, Seward County, and I know that Chris looked at it, and Chris thought it was a good idea, so I think that as we pass the budget, that would be nice to get that set up too. But those, if you have a recommendation that you wanna see change, cause I've got a list of, you know, this here, that we'll go ahead and act on these, so we know to input them. Or anybody else have anything else? What do you had your one? Stan, do you have any as you've
Well,
looked through it?
Optiped, I don't wanna give an increase,
Okay,
rather decrease it than increase it.
okay,
And then the library too. I mean, we need help, employees, we need to keep them, these are some things we can live without, I think. So, I would like to see some of those increased, these non-employee things,
okay.
CASA and all of them.
CASA's the one that,
CASA,
we had, agreed to go up to a 45,000
Right.
a few years. Now it appears that they're not going to get their funding, and
Right.
so they've requested us to stay at that same rate.
but they didn't, it's kind of their error, they didn't get it, so it should be a little bit of a punishment.
Logical consequences.
So those I would like to see all of them decreased or left, no increase.
Okay.
But what amount? You want me to ask you, tell you what amount?
Yeah, right, do you have a targeted amount?
Well,
I will tell you on Adopt a Pet, by state statute, we need to have something.
we have, otherwise we have to have a dog catcher, right? We don't wanna do that.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure the sheriff's department would agree with you on that one.
So. Since we're in a tight budget, I was just cutting on 10%.
From what they,
From what they were last year.
from what they were last year?
That's what I would do, but I'm.
Okay, so when
Rest
we're
of you, I
talking
don't
about
know.
it, we're in the inheritance fund, and, we're under 4,400 line, I'm talking about a line item. Are you talking about CASA, Blue Valley, Hope,
Yes,
Blue
all.
Valley, everything,
Oh,
all of them? And then the Henderson ambulance also?
yes,
Okay, and so then we're gonna, keep going down, and we have another sheet, the
The
city
library.
library,
yes.
okay? And then we have another sheet, which is the, York, YCDC, York County Development District, and
And that's the largest one, right?
82, yes. And we have, Send,
I would say cut 10% on every one of them,
okay,
Region 5,
from what it was last year.
Region 5's not on there.
I think Region 5 is dictated by the state, isn't it? Yeah.
Any additions to that?
Is that a motion?
Any comments to that?
I'm not gonna make a comment, but if that
Okay.
was a motion.
You want me to make a motion?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
If that's,
I make a motion to cut all of them 10%. Because the reason for this is because we've given our employees increases. And I think it's important that we did. To offset some of that, I make a motion that we take 10% off all of these funds.
Okay.
From last year's, budget, or last year's, yeah.
yes.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion regarding the motion? Hearing none, roll call.
Bear,
Yes.
Sykes,
Yes.
Ziegler,
Yes.
Brooks,
Yes.
and Oldmeyer.
No. Okay, motion passes. Are there any others?
What, amount, the reprisal, we adjusted that to like 80 something, I think.
Right.
Took 10,000.
Yeah, down from 95. Kurt had some adjusted numbers, so it was 80. And that would be an interfund transfer from inheritance also.
Did we, the only one that is churning in the back of the head is where we put, the fee for Melanie. Did we just put that in miscellaneous? Just long, I thought we had thought about it.
970.
Wanted to make sure that we
Yep.
had.
Okay, in that miscellaneous then, unless I hear anybody else come up with any other ones, moving, is everybody on board with moving the 54,000 from miscellaneous into the ARPA funds?
You wanna move it into the ARPA?
Right, take it out of miscellaneous, 970, and pay for it out of ARPA. This is the 54,000 for Zell.
Yeah.
Good? Okay. Insurance fund. How's everybody feel on that? I'm starting in a 614 insurance fund.
Do we, what are you targeting as, this is just to get it up and running, and then it would be next year, we would budget all of the
Right.
insurance in there. What are you thinking of putting into that fund to get it going? Do you have a target?
100,000.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna be a fund that's gonna be in the, depending on when, we'll know more when insurance comes in at the end of the year, but somewhere between $800,000 and $900,000 fund that is gonna operate similar to what we're doing now, just removing it from everybody's line item. And that will take some of the pressure off of elected officials to try to figure out what that is, guesstimation.
Sure.
So that'd be an added cost then, right? 100,000 or just be a transfer?
The interfund transfer out of inheritance to sit in that fund.
Eventually it wouldn't cost any more than it does now, right? But yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Sound all right? Okay. The only other one then that I've heard brought up so far is 607. that's adding the additional $4,000 to the election commissioner, on that respect. I would say on this one, I would like to hear a vote on this one. I understand the rationale behind the additional 4,000, but it doesn't achieve what I think you're really going for, and that's the hand count. That is a decision made by somebody else. So on this one, you know, and plus the fact, this budget is, obviously, we feel like Daniel and myself have felt like this budget was enough in there anyway. I have no idea what those extra costs, even if they decide to go that way, would be. But yeah, that one I would disagree with. So if you want to make it a motion, you can make it a motion, and we can go that way. Or does anybody else have any other feelings on that one?
Right, I would agree at this point, looking at what was actually spent last year versus where the budget is now. I mean, I think that, those conversations can definitely be had, but I don't know that I'm on board of putting more money in that, budget.
Well, these special elections that just come about are very small because they're just local.
Sure.
The next year, it's going to be a presidential election, correct?
Correct.
So there's gonna be a lot more people vote.
Yeah, in her budget, there's always an election.
I understand that.
So the primary will be in this one. The general will be in next year's budget. Wishes?
Well, let's make it a motion and we're out there then, and
Okay.
no question about it. So I move we add $4,000 to the election budget. For the coming year.
Thank you, Woody. Thank you, Jack. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Ziegler.
Yes.
Sykes.
Yes.
Brooks.
No.
Bear.
Yes.
And Coleman.
No. Okay, passes. Now, all of a sudden, we're not cutting the budgets?
Well, I don't think
I'm
we'll
getting
spend it,
mixed, I'm getting mixed signals here a little bit. Okay. Anything else that we see in this, in the budget that's presented? Because once we're done here, we're gonna have numbers input, and we're gonna know more so where we're at. We're still targeting the 19th of September as the day we pass our budget. And undoubtedly, I believe we'll be part of the postcard meeting that 18th, which will be our budget hearing. It will be counted as our budget hearing that night of the 18th. Anything else? Hearing none. Jill, you got anything?
The one thing that has not been dealt with, and I don't know that it really matters, is we know there will be fees for whatever way it goes on the single audit or the special compliance exam.
Right.
I think there's room in however you want to do that. Those funds could be paid from,
We could pay those from
Pay it
ARPA.
ARPA, yes. So I don't think I don't see that you need to do anything with the line items you have.
Right.
Just be aware that it's coming and
Okay.
you have options for where it goes.
Right. Yeah,
And we'll figure
either
that
the
out.
compliance paperwork and or the single point audit that we'd have to conduct.
Yeah, and we'll figure that out this week while we're here,
Okay.
which way. So,
We have discussed some upgrades to this room coming out of ARPA monies. That's not a budget item, it's just allocation of funds that are there, how we're gonna spend them. Okay.
Yeah, and,
So those-
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, those unrestricted ARPA, LATCF, inheritance fund, we just budget to use the whole amount. Not planning to actually spend the whole amount, but we budget, give us the budget authority to spend it. And then we can make those decisions throughout the year.
So then all we're held to then is the purchasing act. You know, where does the dollar figure fit in? And, you know, how do we do the purchase? You know, if it's under a certain amount, we can just buy. If it's in between certain amounts, then we have to get 3 reputable type bids. And if it's over a certain amount, then it's closed, sealed bids.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Getting back on our agenda then, all we have left is, board reports, committee reports. Anybody want to start?
Not much to share. Been working on the budget and talking with Harvey. Heard those updates.
Likewise, we talked with Harvey about roads and traveled to a few that he wanted, that people called about, that Daniel sent them to me. And, even though they're in his area, checked them out and, met with Blue Valley in Geneva. And the person that's ahead of the Head Start is quitting, and she was very good, so they're trying to find a replacement. That was the big item of the meeting. And that's about it.
Okay.
Met with Daniel, we met with Mitch, talking evaluation. Stan and I are gonna get together soon with Mother Val. Just having input from people about roads, about solar, about wind. Taking half-hour, 40-minute phone calls and stuff. And that's good, but people need to be able to say, this is my concern, what are you gonna do about it?
Sure.
And, so yeah, it's just normal stuff. Tearing a building down at my house, but that doesn't have anything to do with it.
I had Four Corners Finance Committee meeting. We just talked about the budget there. We talked about the remodeling of the building, et cetera, et cetera. That went on and on. I've had a lot of people ask me some questions about OPPD taking over construction down there. Their comment sitting out here was to our constituents. They want to do all this stuff to help their constituents. York County's not their constituents. Their constituents are Dodge and all those places up around there. They're in business to make money. But I'm thinking there were a lot of people that signed onto that lease agreement down there because they were told that the school district was going to get a pretty good chunk of money out of taxes out of that other company. Now, are they going to get that same money out of OPPD? Question I'll ask them if they come out here again.
Well, I believe they answered it that day.
I didn't hear them.
They did.
Yeah, they did.
Unless they have a boilerplate third party, no.
There you go.
And the question that wasn't answered, or I didn't hear asked or generated is, what's the real motivation? Is it carbon credits? Is it electricity for Omaha? You know, what? So anyway, there are questions that are being raised, and I spent 30 minutes yesterday on a phone call asking those same kind of questions.
You good?
Good.
Okay.
I won't even bring up the ARPA funds.
Bringing up solar regs, it sounds like after a long awaited, the attorney's office is done with some solar regulations, and they were turning those over to the zoning committee. And I would assume, I hadn't heard back yet, but I would assume that they're lining up some sort of meeting at some time in the near future to get those public. And that would be advantageous to us all, because obviously, residents down there, OPPD, everybody's wanting to see what we're coming up with. So that's been going on. Budget is encompassed a great deal of time over the last couple of weeks, as it has over the last couple of months, right, Daniel?
Indeed.
We did have visitors last week, and visitors had have a couple grants in front of them, more for promotional type things. That is, sometime in October, there is a wool, like a spinning fair. It's like for alpaca and different things like that. It's a unique, it's been a couple years since it happened, but it's up at the fairgrounds, so, stuff like that, visitors was part of. What else did we have going? Central District is in September. And if anybody's going to that, it's out at Kearney. We need to make sure we get registered. If you do register, make sure you bring the billing into clerk's office so we can get it paid. We do not, at this present time, we do not have any rooms for the annual conference in December for NACO. We didn't make the grade, we didn't make the cut, we don't know what, they had a new way of doing it this year, and we don't have any rooms. So I'm not sure what's gonna happen. I don't know if there was counties that grab more rooms than they need, but they have to have names on them by the mid-September. And then by that time, there's obviously gonna be some rooms kicked back. We assume that something will open up. Not really sure. But that's where we stand on that. The other thing that I just received was, NERMA is in October. And that is always a great workshop to go to. So that will be, I haven't seen anything emailed yet, but I assume it should be coming soon to sign up for that. So it's October 19th and 20th. I typically do there and back, but, I don't spend the night on this one, but you're more than welcome to if somebody wants to. That's usually very informative sessions.
I think you can sign up for the December meetings too, if you go on the NACO website. You can sign up for those.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just won't have a room.
You just won't have room yet.
Well, we got NACO forwarded us 4 other places that they booked rooms with, but then when we called the one, they said, well, we're not doing that right now. So we have more things to worry about right now than I guess those rooms at this point in time. So, and John Cannon had sounded like he was gonna be out to see us sometime next month at one of our 2 meetings, so maybe we can grill him just a little bit too. Anybody have anything else? Kelly, do you have anything today?
Asking you a question, didn't they discuss moving the NACO meeting out of the December because of the location, the thing? I think they were going, I thought they were going to take a survey.
They did.
Oh, I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, they did. They came, it's been a while ago. They asked when you would want, what your preference would be, which months and stuff like that. Oh, sorry. Maybe it's hidden in that computer there someplace.
It could be. It's a wonderful computer.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? We're adjourned.
Who was supposed to sign?